3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
From the place yet not overly ostentatious studios of CBS Sports Radio here in beautiful New York City, sitting on top of the 10th floor of 345 Hudson Street. Welcome on in to a Monday edition of the Zach Gelb Show across all the great local CBS Sports Radio affiliates, Sirius XM, Channel 158, the free Odyssey app, and, of course, streaming on YouTube. 855-212-4CBS is number to jump on in, 855-212-4227. You could always get at me on Instagram, where I'm straight flexing, or via the good old cesspool of Twitter, at Zach Gelb. That's ZACHGELB. Got Stuart Kovacs and Pat Boyle rocking and rolling with me on the Zach Gelb Show all the way up until 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific today. We have to start the show off with the whining that the Kansas City Chiefs are doing. So I'm watching this game yesterday as Ion Football is wrapping up through the 8-hour marathon and many of these same CBS Sports Radio affiliates. And we all knew one of the feature games of the weekend were going to be the Kansas City Chiefs up against the Buffalo Bills in Chiefs Kingdom in Arrowhead. Going into the game, I trusted Buffalo's offense more. I thought Buffalo was going to win the game. I think I picked the Bills by 5 points. I like the Bills as a dog. I like the Bills outright on the money line. I said that all week. But when that game was playing out, we all know the controversial play that really isn't controversial because it's obvious, where Travis Kelce makes a great catch, laterals the ball, makes a great decision. Kadarius Toney catches it, and he goes into the end zone for a touchdown. But right away, when the celebration and the euphoria is happening in Kansas City, you knew that there was a yellow handkerchief on the field. You knew that there was a penalty flag. And once they showed the replay, it was clear and obvious when you saw the first look at the replay that Kadarius Toney was lined up offside. So, yes, it stinks that that was called because it takes away from such a fun ending to a game. And don't get me wrong, there's still over a minute left. The Buffalo Bills were getting the ball back. They could have easily marched right down the field and won the game, but I can't crush the officials. The officials made the clear call. And if you played any football, whether it was elementary, whether it was JV in high school, varsity in high school, college, or the NFL, and actually, let's just go back to your younger roots of the game and you're first learning the game, even as a fat offensive lineman, I know what the receiver's supposed to do. I've seen it 9,000 times. The receiver looks to the official and says, am I on the line of scrimmage? The official's either going to say, you need to move back or you need to move up. And in this case, it was so obvious there's no way that Kadarius Toney ever asked the official, am I onside? And if he did, let's just say, and the official told him, you aren't, and he did not move back, that's on him. But we finally got that answer because after all the complaining and the crying and the bitching that the Chiefs did after the game with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, surprise, surprise, today at Andy Reid's press conference, he said Kadarius Toney, according to Nate Taylor, covers the Chiefs, didn't check with the down judge, Mike Carr, to ensure he lined up in the correct spot before committing his offside penalty. So we'll play you some of the Chiefs audio in just a second. But you have Patrick Mahomes incensed, Patrick Mahomes losing his mind, crying like a little baby, and then Andy Reid after the game enabling that behavior and doubling down on it, and the entitlement of Andy Reid, oh, usually before that's even considered getting called, I would get a warning. Tell Kadarius Toney to line up on sides. It's not that hard, guys. This is the second game this season that Kadarius Toney caught you. Going back to week 1 against the Lions, he couldn't catch anything. He couldn't even catch a cold. And then the other day, he lined up offside. And when I'm watching it with Jody Mack yesterday, and we're doing the Eye on Football show, I'm sitting there saying, he's a good yard offside, it looked like. And that's from my human eye just sitting there with the monitor to my right on the first replay. Kansas City yesterday became unlikable. They really did. The Chiefs were this great duo of Mahomes and Andy Reid, and also, let's say, a trifecta with Travis Kelce. There was a lot to like with Kansas City. They were fun. They were the next team. They've already won 2 Super Bowls. They've been to another one. You know they're going to be in this for the next decade, even though this season isn't going their way. They still have a chance to get back to the Super Bowl. But there was no real reason outside of jealousy to dislike the Kansas City Chiefs. Mahomes, likable player. Andy Reid, likable head coach. For all those years, couldn't win the big game. Now he's won 2 of them. Travis Kelce, an awesome personality, a really fun superstar. Chris Jones, one of the better defensive players in the league. There's so many reasons, if you don't have a dog in the fight and you're just a neutral football watcher, to like Kansas City. But yesterday, are you bleeping kidding me? You're going to cry. You're going to bitch. You're going to complain when Kadarius Toney couldn't get his ass lined up on sides? He was clearly over the line. It wasn't even debatable. So don't tell me after the game, Patrick Mahomes, oh, the refs didn't give us a warning, or, oh, they take away from Travis Kelce's legacy, or, oh, It had no impact on the play. It's football 101. You look at the official. Am I lined up correctly? The official either tells you yes or no. Kadarius Toney didn't do that. And for Andy Reid to defend Mahomes and basically rip the officials as well, and the arrogance that I deserve a warning, get lost. There's no accountability. You need to hold Kadarius Toney accountable because 2 games this year, he's cost you. So don't give me this bull junk. Don't give me this nonsense. Don't give me this hogwash that it's the official's fault. It ain't the official's fault. It's Kadarius Toney's fault. And we all know what the real root of frustration is for Mahomes. Probably if you shoot Mahomes up a true serum, he's not actually mad at the officials. It's because he realizes it's either Super Bowl or bust for him each and every year. Fair or not. And he knows down deep that he doesn't have the horses this year to throw the football to. And you see it week in and week out. Travis Kelce, we all know, is a stud. You don't have Isaiah Pacheco yesterday, who's a physical running back. There's really not much that scares you and intimidates you with this Kansas City Chiefs offense. Yeah, you still have number 15. We all know how great he is. We all know that they will be in every game. But you're not going to beat the good teams. You're not going to walk out with victories when you have no rhythm and no flow offensively, and you can't trust any of your wide receivers. And it's not even like Buffalo is this dominant team. Buffalo's season was on life support yesterday. The plug was about to be pulled on the Sean McDermott era in Buffalo. And the Bills didn't win because of a call by the officials. That's a bunch of nonsense. So yesterday, no doubt about it, the Chiefs became unlikable. Because it's one thing to lose, but it's another thing when you lose and then you cry about it. And let me just remind everybody, how did James Bradbury approach the Super Bowl loss last year? He got called for defensive holding. It was ticky-tack. Patrick Mahomes, that wasn't allowing the players to decide the game on the field. He got in front of his locker and he said, yeah, I held. I did enough where I put my team in a bad position and the officials called defensive holding. And I'm okay with it. We all knew it was a bad call. We all knew the flag shouldn't have been thrown in that spot. But he handled it in a classy way. And that was in a much bigger stage after a Super Bowl defeat. I didn't see Brittany Mahomes after that one going on Instagram and saying, oh, the rest are the MVP. When the Chiefs got gifted that Super Bowl with the call last year in the final 2 minutes up against the Philadelphia Eagles. And that's what Brittany Mahomes did yesterday. She goes on Instagram and she goes, the rest are the MVP. Patrick Mahomes slams the officials. We'll play the audio in just a second. He is complaining to Josh Allen when he's shaking Josh Allen's hands. Like, how classless is that? And Mahomes is usually a very classy guy. There's nothing to dislike about him outside of his brother. And Andy Reid, how frustrated he was and how he's killing the officials. I don't usually advocate for fines because I like when players speak their minds. But how many times do players and coaches get fined for ripping the officials? The NFL better not go light on the Chiefs. They better not go light on Mahomes and Andy Reid because they're two of the biggest names in the league. Because anyone else does that in the league, they're getting fined a lucrative amount of money. But what a joke yesterday for Kansas City to lose the game. And then when you lose the game, the only thing you could say is, oh, it's the officials' fault. Oh, the officials screwed us. I'm going to do a lot of things that are unprecedented today. I'm going to make 2 compliments that I never like to give. I'm going to praise the Cowboys coming up later. I'm also going to praise TV refs because I hate TV refs. But on Sunday Night Football last night, as we were watching the Eagles get crushed by the Cowboys, they asked Terry McAulay on NBC his thoughts about the offside that was called on Kadarius Toney. And this was Terry McAulay's analysis on NBC last night.
This is clearly a foul. He can't be past the back of the ball. His whole body is in the neutral zone. It may even be beyond the neutral zone. You can see the receiver at the top lined up perfectly. That's where he should have been. And I would add, in past years, this has never been called. This would be technical. This would be a warning. This year it's been called 11 times as opposed to twice last year, only once in 2021. So this is being consistently called. He needs to be onside.
And whether it's been consistently called or not, it doesn't matter. And I know Andy Reid sits up at the podium after the game and goes, I've never had an offensive offside called in my career when I've been the head coach, blah, 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 blah. Go watch the replay. If I was in that press conference room, I would say, Coach, shouldn't you instruct Kadarius Toney? Don't you have to hold Kadarius Toney accountable to know how to line up? It's not like you need a PhD in football to figure this one out. The dude was clearly offside. It wasn't even close. He wasn't even in the same zip code as where the center and the football was. Let's listen up to Patrick Mahomes complain, and he made it clear that he hates when the games are decided by officiating.
Let us play, man. Like, let us play the game. And then whatever happens, happens. Like, the whole throwing the flag and deciding the game one or another, that's what hurts me. That's why, like, last week I didn't say anything, because it's letting us play, man. Let us go out there and win the game. And I said I'd rather them let us play and go out there and see who wins. I mean, that's what you want as a competitor, is you practice all week to go out there and try to win. And you want it to be about your team and that team and see what happens. You never want it to be – you don't want to be talking about this stuff after the game. That's it, man. I'm not worried about if there was a flag on the next player or whatever, like not a flag. I want to go out there and play and then see what happens at the end, see what the score is, and then I can live with the results.
Well, it's not a free-for-all. There are rules. If it was a free-for-all, then don't complain when you get hit by a defensive lineman a little bit late. All right? Your player couldn't line up onside. It took away a touchdown. And it wasn't as if the officials saw the play on out, and then elected to throw the flag. They threw the flag right when the ball was snapped, because anyone with eyes could see that Kadarius Toney was nowhere close to being onside. Here is Patrick Mahomes saying the refs didn't do their jobs.
I mean, the flag today was tough. Offensive offsides, it's
a penalty.
It's something that, I mean, you as a like I said, elementary school, we talk about, you line up, you point to the ref.
Your player didn't do that.
Not good. If not, they come to you, hey, we talk, you need to get off the ball more, you need to be on the ball more.
Kadarius Toney didn't do that.
I mean, that's the ref's job.
Blame Tony.
You want to have an open discussion so that you can go out there and put the best product you can on the field.
Your player didn't have an open discussion.
For him to throw that flag,
Never
no
asked.
explanation, no anything. And I saw the picture, and I mean, he probably is, barely offside.
Barely?
But for him to take the game into his hands over a call like that doesn't affect the play at all, didn't affect anything.
Line up on
it's just tough, man. And like I said, man, that's a Hall of Fame tight end making a Hall of Fame play that won't be shown because we threw a flag for an offensive offsides. And so it takes away from not only this game and this season, but from a legendary career that Travis has had. And, I mean, that hurts me because I know how hard he works for it.
Whenever Travis Kelce retires, and then he's out for 5 years, and he gets his day in the spotlight in Canton, Ohio, and they enshrine him into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. You don't think we're going to have enough career highlights for Travis Kelce? You think anyone's going to be sitting there and go, what about the time when he's being considered an all-time great right now, that a play was taken away from him that would have made him even more of an all-time great? The dude's already an all-time great tight end. Oh, that crying is offensive. It really is. It's ridiculous. Like, does Mahomes just think we're a bunch of morons? Does he think we're a bunch of dopes? So let's crush the officials for doing their jobs. Let's crush the officials for enforcing the rules, and you're just annoyed because you didn't think something should have been called when he was clearly offside in Kadarius Toney. And finally, this one was the worst. Josh Allen and Mahomes having an embrace after the game, and all Mahomes wanted to do was talk about how bad the officials were to Josh Allen. Listen up.
Call I've never seen, man. Offensive offsides in that moment, man. Terrible.
Now, you know what's bleeping terrible, Patrick? That your player wasn't lined up correctly. and that you guys are continuing to enable the mistakes by Kadarius Toney. And it cost you up against the Lions in week 1, and now it cost you in week 14 up against the Buffalo Bills. And you know it and I know it. Hey, Mahomes could still maybe at the end of the year be in Las Vegas, be hoisting another Lombardi trophy because he's that damn special. But he's concerned because he knows he does not have the talent around him that is required or that makes it easier for him to go land his third Lombardi trophy. Zach Gelb Show, CBS Sports Radio. What did you make of Kansas City crying after the game last night? And are the Chiefs officially an unlikable team after the way they conducted themselves in the embarrassing fashion following a loss to the Buffalo Bills? 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. When we come on back, I got to go wash my mouth out with soap because I already praised the TV refs. Now I have to praise the drama Dallas choking Cowboys, who may not be the drama Dallas choking Cowboys this year. How about them Cowboys? We talk about them next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. "45 seconds remaining. "30 seconds remaining. "15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's back. Here's Zach Gelb.
You could stream the NFL on Westwood One for free, sponsored by AutoZone. All season long, you can listen to every Westwood One broadcast of the NFL live on the NFL app by asking Alexa to open Westwood One Sports on the Odyssey app. Get in the zone, AutoZone. AutoZone's free battery testing and charging is available for free at your local AutoZone. Get in the zone, AutoZone. Restrictions apply. Coming up in a few minutes, I have a confession to make about the 2023 Dallas Cowboys. But first, we get to the biggest story of the day. The crying Kansas City Chiefs losing yesterday to the Buffalo Bills and just going nuts after the game on the officiating when it was a clear and obvious offside, and it was the right penalty that nullified a crazy and a wild sequence where Travis Kelce makes a catch and laterals the ball to Kadarius Toney, and he runs 20 yards for a touchdown. But Toney was lined up offside. The Chiefs then couldn't find a way to get a field goal or get the ball into the end zone after that in the final minute or so. And Kansas City loses, and they're now 8-5 on the season. And the Bills pop up from the casket, and they go, "We're not dead yet," at 7-6. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Let's start things off with Tom in Ohio. He's first up on the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Tom, what's happening?
Hey, Zach, forget that I lost a bet on that play.
Okay.
Forget that.
Mm-hmm.
But wait, Tony, let's address that he was pissed off, pouting, and that's why he was standing back there to get the lateral, because he was mad he didn't get the pass. How about addressing that?
What do you want me to address? You think that Kadarius Toney intentionally lined up offside because he didn't get the ball?
No, when he went out for the pass, he got pissed off. He didn't get the ball, so he's standing back there pouting. If you watch it, he's mad he didn't get the pass. He's supposed to be running up the field blocking. Oh, and then the ball comes to him. How about addressing that?
Tom, how about addressing that you lost the bet and now you're coming up with some fugazi conspiracy theory? That's what it is. The guy then got the ball lateral to him, and he found the way into the end zone.
Yeah, but he wouldn't even have been there if he wasn't pouting and pissed off that he thought he was open.
Tom, you have no point right here. And you've made 0 sense. And all of us listening to you just got a whole lot dumber after hearing that response. Oh, what is it, like the Billy Madison quote after the lecturing in the entire debate? Jeez Louise. That's a brutal explanation. And this is what happens. You lose a bet, then you come up with a conspiracy theory, and you think Kadarius Toney was annoyed and he was pouting on the field. If that was the case, he wouldn't look like he just got hit by a car afterwards when he's sitting on the sideline and he had no clue what the heck just happened. And he just has a blank stare because he realized he messed up and he didn't do the simple thing. And that was check with the official. All he had to do was turn his head to the left and go, "Official, am I onside? Am I good?" The official either gives a thumbs up or a thumbs down or says, "Move up, move back." Kadarius Toney didn't do that.
Also, don't you think that was a design that he was going to get that ball lateraled?
No.
You thought that was just straight out off the cuff?
In the moment, I thought it was improv. but maybe it was. I did not see anything after the game that suggests otherwise. But I thought Kelsey saw Tony was wide open and in the moment made a football-savvy play and then tossed the ball backwards.
But at least you think that they work on that in practice. Like, hey, if we run this play in a 2-minute drill, be ready for it.
But potentially, because the Chiefs are a well-prepared team and they should be ready for every situation. But I don't know if that was necessarily by design in that play. I think Kelsey just made a really heads-up play. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Let's go to Jordan in Calgary next up on CBS Sports Radio. Jordan, go ahead.
Hello.
Yes.
I just got to say I love your show, and you pretty much have nailed, like, everything on the head with what you've said today.
Well, that's usually how it works, Jordan. I don't get why you sound so surprised.
So what I'm seeing here is the Kansas City Chiefs are entitled. They're used to winning, which is understandable. Like, you know, Travis Kelce's dating Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift's going to the games. They're getting all the viewers from all the Swifties. So I believe that they've become entitled, and they can't take losing. But essentially, Patrick Mahomes, like, blaming the refs, it's brutal. It's terrible.
It's unfortunate because Mahomes is such a great player, and he's an all-time great, and he's such a likable guy. But I thought it was very lame yesterday. And I understand his frustration is probably more so with Kadarius Toney, but I guess he wants to be a good teammate, and he's not going to go after Toney. But then to go after the officials, like, it's one thing in the moment on the field to do it, but then when you cool off a little bit, you go into the locker room, and then you go to the podium, you shouldn't be ripping the refs. And there's many cases where I'm fine if you rip the refs. But for them enforcing the rule and making sure that Toney needs to be lined up on sides, I don't get what the big gripe is. It'd be one thing if they got it wrong, but they didn't get it wrong. He was clearly offside. Let's go to Eddie in Florida next up on the Zach Gelb Show. Eddie, what's happening?
Hey, how you doing, Zach?
Doing great, Eddie. Go ahead.
Listen, I had a different take on that. If you look at the end of that play when they go to the sideline, Patrick Mahomes is losing his mind, throwing his helmet, and he looks to his left, which is away from the field, and something really sets him off. And then they cut to Kadarius Toney, and he won't even look at him. He's just sitting there stone-faced.
Yeah, because he knew he'd blow the game.
Well, I get that, but I also saw Patrick Mahomes mouth, "Are you that effing stupid or what, man?" I think what happened is, in order to do damage control, rather than throw Kadarius Toney under the bus, they made a decision to throw the refs under the bus. I'm not saying I agree with it, but I think his initial anger, and it was considerable, was aimed at Kadarius Toney. Because how can you be that stupid to line up the sides?
Eddie, appreciate the phone call. I'm not a professional lip reader. I just go what we hear. And right away, when the game ends and Mahomes goes up to Josh Allen, he is ripping the officials. So I think what was said on the sideline, I'm not saying he wasn't frustrated at Toney, but I don't think he voiced that frustration at Toney. I think it was always from the start at the officials with what he was physically saying. Not maybe what he was thinking, not maybe what he was feeling, but what he was saying. Let's go to Joe in Kansas City next up on CBS Sports Radio. Joe, what's happening?
Hey, Zach, how's it going?
Doing great, Joe. Go ahead.
Hey, man, I love your show. I agree with you all the time. Yes, Mahomes, Andy Reid, they need to be more professional. They need to not blame the refs like that. I agree with what you said. I think a lot of it is Mahomes is looking at someone to blame because he knows he doesn't have the weapons. You know, I think our front office and everything thought as long as they had a couple warm bodies, we were going to be okay. Travis Kelce is great. We got to quit looking at him as a wide receiver one, and he just needs to be our stud tight end, and we got to get some bodies in there that can catch a ball. But I feel like if Mahomes goes after Toney or says anything on the sideline, I don't think Toney's the type of dude that can handle that criticism.
Yeah, but who should care what Kadarius Toney says? I understand that Kadarius Toney made two big plays in the Super Bowl. And you may not win that Super Bowl last year without those plays, but this year he has never formed into the wide receiver that people thought he could be coming out of Florida, and he has physically cost the Chiefs 2 games this season. You could have 2 fewer losses if Kadarius Toney knows how to catch the ball in game one up against the Lions, and if yesterday he just simply knew how to line up onside. It's one thing, hey, you drop a ball or you're not reaching what you're supposed to do from the player that you were in college, like what happened in week one. But to not line up correctly, that's just inexcusable to me.
Oh, I agree. My 9-year-old, that's the first thing he looked at me. He said, Dad, in flag football, we look over at the ref and ask if we're on the line.
Bingo. And that's
I
the
know
thing.
we do. And
you play football, you watch football, or you grow up around it. Your 9-year-old, Joe, was able to make an astute observation because everyone, regardless of the position, when you are learning football, you see it get taught and you see it get coached where you have to check into the official to see if you're lined up in the correct spot.
Correct. And unfortunately, this is the second time this year, like you said, that I am blaming Tony on a loss. I don't agree with how hard Mahomes went after the refs. But I would say out of Mahomes' whole career and after the Green Bay game last week, saying we don't need to be in that situation, didn't put any blame on the refs. Mm-hmm. I'm going to give them a pass this one time. We're going to right the ship. We're going to beat Miami in the AFC Championship at Miami, and then we're going to beat the Cowgirls in the Super Bowl.
How about that? All righty, Joe. Let's go to Wes in New Jersey next up on CBS Sports Radio. Wes, go ahead.
Hi. I think the Chiefs, they're not doing it this year. I think they're done. They might have had some sort of dynasty until they figure it out. They just have no receivers. They have no one. Mahomes is good. He throws it to Kelsey. Other than that, they just don't have anything else going for them.
So, Wes, just wondering, last year, did you think they didn't have enough?
Did they not have enough? I might have thought that, but still, they got worse. They haven't. Last year, they were still one of the best teams in the league. This year, I just don't see them doing that.
Well, appreciate the phone call, Wes. I remember a lot last year where people were saying the Chiefs are vulnerable. Oh, the Chiefs aren't going to find a way to get back to the Super Bowl. Oh, they miss Tyreek Hill too much, and they were still down by 10 in the Super Bowl and found a way to get it done. And you could say that the Chiefs are this year. You're not wrong. But as long as you have 15 healthy, even with how critical I have been of him today, they could still beat any team in the NFL. Because who's really running away with it right now? San Francisco is. They're looking pretty damn good. In the AFC, Dolphins are a good team, but the Dolphins lost to the Chiefs. The Ravens, solid team. Lamar has to stay healthy. There's a lot of open when you look at the NFL. No, not a lot of teams have taken that baton and really have run with it. And until they get eliminated, even with all the complaining they did yesterday, you're not going to want to see them come playoff time. Let's go to Steve in California next up on CBS Sports Radio. Steve, go ahead.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. Really appreciate it. I'm going to give you a vision. Nobody's talking about this, okay? Mm-hmm. And I don't have a horse in a race. I'm a 49er fan. Okay, Tony lines up offsides, and that whole play plays out, right? Yeah. And he gets the legal lateral, goes for a touchdown. Mm-hmm. Okay, here we go. Now, let's say they make a no call on that offsides play. Now they're going to go back and say, wait a minute, the guy lined up offsides in that play was in that winning touchdown, and now the officials get criticized for the no call. So, but nobody's talking about that. That's a spin. I can't believe.
I don't get your point, though, Steve. They threw the flag right away. So what are you saying?
No, what I'm saying is he went for the touchdown on that play. But let's say they don't throw the flag. Let's say they do make a no call on it, and it goes for the touchdown. Now they're going to go back and say, wait a minute, he was offsides, and they're going to criticize him for not making the call.
Okay, yeah, you're probably not wrong because, maybe a Bills fan would have went through it after the game, found it, and then blow it up on Twitter. But what's the point then? Then some of us would have been ripping the officials? No, probably would be all complimenting how heck of a play it was and whatever. They got away with one. But the officials got it right, so I don't even get why we would play the game. Oh, if they didn't get it right, what the reaction would be. We'll take more of your phone calls on this, 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Also, when we come on back in 5 minutes. Little mea culpa, sort of. I got to give some praise to the Dallas Cowboys. Yuck! Ugh, that just doesn't feel right. Update time first. Here is the Ackman Rich.
CBS Sports Radio. Sports Flash.
And it's sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Progressive makes bundling easy and affordable. Get a multi-policy discount by combining your motorcycle, RV, boat, ATV, and more. All your protection in one place. Bundle and save at Progressive.com. Week 14 concludes with two teams battling for a playoff berth and positions against two teams at 4-8. The Dolphins host the Titans, with Miami looking for its fourth straight and to move into a tie for the top spot in the AFC with the Ravens, who are 10-3. Mike McDaniel quick to point out this week it's not a 13-game season.
This team isn't crowning themselves. This team is not taking any entitlement again in an NFL game. This is their moment that they've been working for, that they've earned. There's definitely some positive residuals to that.
The Packers are 6-6 and try to stay in the wild card hunt tonight. They face the Giants, looking for their fourth straight win, while New York is looking for its third straight and still in the playoff hunt with a win tonight and is sticking with Tommy DeVito at quarterback. Justin Jefferson is day-to-day. He could play on Saturday. Ravens safety Kyle Hamilton week-to-week with a knee injury, and the Browns' DeJuan Jones has had his rookie season ended by a knee surgery or a knee injury that will require surgery. I'm Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio's The Bart Winkler Show is your go-to December destination for the best sports talk on the radio. Don't forget, we're live 24/7 on social media, YouTube, Sirius XM Channel 158, and the free Odyssey app.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Gelb Show is on the air across the nation on CBS Sports Radio.
Tyreek Hill should win the MVP just on his own team before Tua Tagovailoa and also the rest of the NFL. But I have zero confidence that these voters are going to go to a wide receiver and are going to go with the non-quarterback. Quite frankly, I think the two most valuable players in the league right now are Tyreek Hill and Christian McCaffrey. And I do believe Tyreek Hill is the most valuable player out of all the 32 teams in the NFL right now.
Here's Zach Gelb.
It's time to Ask the Pros, where you, the listener, gets to ask us a question, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Simply tweet your question at CBS Sports Radio at Zach Gelb using the hashtag Ask the Pros. Be listening later in the show when we might answer your question. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. My take all throughout the year on the Dallas Cowboys has been this. In the big moment, in the bigger games, they will choke, they will come up small, and they will do what the Dallas Cowboys have done ever since the 1995 regular season, which was the last time we saw them in the postseason go to an NFC title game and then also go to a Super Bowl. The last 2 years, Mike McCarthy's done a solid job. Back-to-back 12-win seasons. They're probably going to exceed that number this year. They do stand by the belief that I had, and they do kind of prove that true this year, that Kellen Moore is one of the more overrated offensive minds in football. And Kellen Moore is now with the Chargers. The Chargers offense hasn't been humming all season long. And then you look at the Dallas Cowboys, Dak Prescott maybe could win the MVP. Like, I'm not going to sit here and believe and say that he'll win the MVP, but he is playing MVP type of football right now. And you look at the Cowboys, they have a very good defense. They have an offense that believes right now. And Mike McCarthy, how about the toughness he displayed? Appendicitis, gets surgery, and then a few days later, Mike McCarthy, he's on the sideline coaching his ass off, out coaching Nick Sirianni and the Philadelphia Eagles. That was a good old-fashioned ass whooping last night on Sunday Night Football, and the Cowboys needed it in the worst way. Because up until this point on the season, you looked at the Cowboys' record and you said, okay, it's saying they're a great team, but then when they go up against the really good teams or the great teams, well, they got blown out by the San Francisco 49ers, and then even though they played well in their first matchup with the Eagles, they still lost the game. So last night, they showed, and I still think the Eagles will win the NFC East, but they showed they are clearly the third best team in the NFC and could be making a push to be the second best team in the NFC. And ultimately, I hope we do get to see 49ers and Cowboys, whether that's in the divisional round, whether that's in the NFC title game. But usually as someone that is described as a Dallas Cowboys hater, which I just like to think I'm realistic, and I just tell you the truth, and Cowboys fans don't like the truth, I will admit this Cowboys team is extremely likable. Mike McCarthy continues to get disrespected. The guy has coached his butt off the last 3 years. Dak Prescott, even though I don't think he is, an elite quarterback consistently in this league, he is easy to root for when you know his story. CeeDee Lamb is one of the better wide receivers in football. I've always liked Brandon Cook. I always like as well Michael Gallup. Tony Pollard is a solid player. And then defensively, Micah Parsons, he could sometimes say some stupid things on his podcast, but Micah Parsons is a ferocious football player. Stephon Gilmore is looking like Defensive Player of the Year Stephon Gilmore with what he's been able to do the last two weeks. And Deron Bland, most interceptions for touchdowns in a single season, pick sixes in the history of the NFL. And Dan Quinn, I like Dan Quinn. I like Dan Quinn because he choked a 28-3 lead in the Super Bowl as a Patriot fan. But Dan Quinn has done a really good job, a masterful job with that defense. And I love when he's in that box and he's calling the plays and he's going nuts and he's celebrated. It pains me to say it because Cowboys fans could be some of the more obnoxious fans in sports. But I'm fair. This is a likable Cowboys team this year. A very likable team. And ultimately, when push comes to shove, let's see if they're different. Because they're giving off the look like they are different. But let's see, after you get out of beating the snot out of the NFC South opponent, assuming you're a wild card, or you win the NFC East, you win the wild card round because you won't be the number one overall seed, in all likelihood, not out of the realm of possibilities. But let's see what happens when you're in a divisional round against the Niners, or divisional round against the Eagles, or an NFC title game against the Eagles and the Niners. But yeah, I got to give credit to the Cowboys. They were by far and away last night the better team compared to the Philadelphia Eagles. And that Eagles defense, they look like Swiss cheese last night. The last 2 weeks, the 49ers ran through them like a hot knife through butter. And last night, Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys could do whatever they wanted. And I thought the Cowboys could even put up more points. And I was hoping they would because I had a CeeDee Lamb anytime touchdown, which hit on the first drive of the game. And thankfully, I bet that individually as well. But I parlayed it with the over. And how many times are the Eagles going to drop the ball? How many times? A.J. Brown. You have Devontae Smith. Everyone was fumbling the ball when they were moving the football last night for the Philadelphia Eagles. So this is one of those days. It took 14 weeks. But I will finally give some praise and some credit to the Dallas Cowboys. I look forward, though, till January when the team comes up short, though. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Let's get back to the Chiefs. Let's get back to the Bills, the ending of that game. Mahomes and Andy Reid just trashing the officials, which I thought was absolutely ridiculous. Let's go to Nate in Pennsylvania next up on the Zach Gelb Show. Nate, what's happening?
Hey, Zach. So I think the Cowboys and the Eagles both won last night. I think the Eagles they need to sit down and self-reflect a little bit, and that's a lot easier to do for a coach when they lose the game because they haven't been right all year. And so if they're going to make some changes, I think now's the time. And for the Cowboys, obviously getting that confidence builder, that was a good thing. Yeah, that was a crappy call yesterday. I don't, unless you're like a diehard Bills fan, the refs interfering in the last minute of the game is making it borderline unwatchable.
But Nate, are you a Chiefs fan? Just wondering.
No, I'm a Denver Broncos fan, actually.
Okay, so should they not call it when the player is clearly lined up offside? Like they did not know what was going to happen once they threw the flag, but he was clearly off.
Absolutely, and so you're right. It's not like they threw the flag after they seen the touchdown. You know, it could have been an incomplete pass, and we're not even having this discussion today. But I will say, I look back at the AFC Championship game. The Chiefs when they lost to the Patriots when the defensive player lined up offsides. This here especially, I don't think it gave them any sort of unfair advantage. And it's just you unknowingly decided the outcome of that game more likely than not. And Even if
so Tony could have been 10 yards down the field, they shouldn't call it because you don't want to see an all-time play get taken away, is what you're saying.
It could have been just a simple, over-the-shoulder pass for a touchdown. It's not that. You're talking about an inch. And I'm saying in that situation, I get what the rule is.
More than an inch,
that's
but
like
okay.
Holding. You could call holding on every play. I'm just saying in that situation, if it's not that egregious, I think you swallow the whistle.
Well, it was egregious. He was like almost a full yard, not even lined up closely. Sometimes you see a replay and you go, oh, I don't really see the flag and why the flag was thrown. The first replay I saw, I go, clear and obvious, Tony offside. Let's go to Anthony in Myrtle Beach next up on CBS Sports Radio. Ant, go ahead.
Yeah, that guy is the last caller. I don't know what his problem is. A flag is a flag. A penalty is a penalty. My view is Kansas City Chiefs, they're a dirty team. They're very rough. They'll do things on the ground in the game, and they never get penalties called for them. Meanwhile, other teams will get penalized for them, and it's unjust. And that's one reason why I honestly can't stand the Chiefs, because it seems like their referee is the 13th man always out there.
Yeah, well, you know what happens? A lot of times when you win games, that's what people say. I dealt that as a Patriot fan all these years. I would not call Kansas City, though, a dirty team. They're usually enjoyable. They just weren't enjoyable yesterday because of the way that they handled complaining about the officiating at the end. Let me squeeze in Mike in West Virginia. Mike, got about a minute here. Go ahead.
Hey, real quick, I want to thank you for giving the Cowboys a little props to start off with. I wondered if you was going to do that.
I'm fair, Mike. I show up. Win or lose, I'm always here. I don't hide. I don't cry. I'm not like Mahomes and Andy Reid, those crybabies.
There you go. And second of all, I want to say real quick, I'm not, I am a Cowboy fan, but I'm not a Chiefs or Bills fan. A lot of people forget one thing. The beginning of this season, the referees made it clear they were going to make an emphasis on the offense and defensive lines. A helmet over the line, a hand over the line. They've been calling it all year. They've been calling this all year.
You're not wrong, Mike, and appreciate the phone call. I'm up against it. The bottom line is Tony has to check with the official. Tony didn't check with the official. Toddlers get taught this. High school players get taught this. College players get taught this. The pro simply has to look and ask the official. And he didn't, and Andy Reid admitted that earlier today.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Now at number 2 of our radio program. That's right. It is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Coming up in an hour 20 from now, Seth Joyner will join us to discuss the problems with the Philadelphia Eagles, where his belief level is the rest of the way with the Dallas Cowboys. And we'll also go back to the biggest story of the day, the Kansas City Chiefs crying, complaining about not getting the call go their way last night and not having the referees overlook an obvious offside by Kadarius Toney that did negate that lateral from Kelsey to Toney for what could have been the game-winning score. Now, we talked about the Chiefs' angle of this and how weak it is of the Kansas City Chiefs and how lame it is of the Kansas City Chiefs to be crying and not really holding Kadarius Toney accountable after he has blown 2 games for you now this season. The phone participation has been excellent so far. You can always give us a buzz, 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. But I want to get to the other side of this, and that's the Buffalo Bills. The Bills last week, they went through some things. I think that is the nicest way to say it. And a lot of it was because of the incompetence, I guess you could say, or just how tone deaf Sean McDermott was when back in 2019, we've all read the Ty Dunn article that he used the terrorists in 9/11 and their communication skills to show his team how they should communicate and work together properly to achieve a common goal. Now, I erupted last week. I shredded Sean McDermott last week, and I called him an idiot because what he said in 2019 was really stupid, and he came off like a moron. But I have been someone, probably out of anybody in the national radio landscape, that has advocated and given more support to Sean McDermott. I wanted Sean McDermott to be an NFL head coach 2 years before he got hired as an NFL head coach. Now, with that being said, my take has been pretty constant this year. He has led the Bills to as far as he could take them. And I still do believe that the Buffalo Bills need a new head coach next season. Now, with that being said, I don't think that's going to happen. Even if they miss the playoffs, I don't believe the Pagula family is going to get rid of Sean McDermott because it's going to be out of fear. Because even though they haven't been the owner of the team for all the time in the last 20, 25 years, we know that. They're newer owners. The Bills were on a 17-year playout drought. And then you had Sean McDermott come in, and even though they have not moved this thing forward in terms of getting that Super Bowl with what has transpired the last 2-3 years, they have consistently been a playoff team, and they've consistently been one of the better teams in the NFL. And I've used this analogy 9,000 times. Just because you have someone break down the house and then build it back up, maybe he does like 85, 90% of the job, and then you have a dispute, you have an issue with someone, and you bring somebody else in to finish off your house and complete the final 10% of the project. And the Bills ever win a Super Bowl 2-3 years from now, I do believe Sean McDermott will get a lot of credit, but I don't think he'll actually be the head coach. Now, yesterday, through all that crap that you had to go through, which all of it was pretty much self-inflicted, you know, maybe the article that Ty Dunn wrote, and Ty is a phenomenal writer, I'm a big fan of Ty, maybe not everything in that article needs to be kind of uncovered and needs to be attached to McDermott where we have to slam McDermott. There's some good, as Ty said in that article, that McDermott has done. There is also some bad. But that team was 6-6. I was in that locker room after they lost to the Philadelphia Eagles in overtime in Lincoln Financial Field, and that locker room was deflated. You could hear a pin drop. That organization looked like they realized, man, what we set out to accomplish this year is not going to be attainable. So then you get away from everybody, you have a bye week, and then coming out of the bye week, boom, you get this explosive article. You get this bombshell article by Ty Dunn. Now, with all that being said, maybe this is just because I know how to watch football and I've seen enough football throughout the years. Once that Ty Dunn article was released, and I was pretty positive and I was pretty optimistic that the Bills would find a way to win the game by a few points. When that article came out, I go, oh, this is such a typical Buffalo victory. Because whenever a team is dragged through the mud all throughout the week, fair or not, whenever there's been so many distractions and everyone in America was going to be picking Kansas City, oh, Kansas City's not going to lose to Buffalo, the team that everyone doubts usually finds a way. So I like Buffalo going into the game yesterday. But Buffalo, in that final minute 30, 2 minutes, they were in a dogfight with Kansas City. The Bills looked like throughout the first 57, 58 minutes of the game that they were the better team, and they still needed to find a way to snatch a victory. And when I was doing the show live on Ion Football yesterday, I said to Jody, I picked the Bills all throughout the week with not knowing what this result's going to be and it not being clear and obvious here in the final 2-3 minutes. I started to lean towards Kansas City because you've seen this story how many times with the Buffalo Bills. Great game, two really good teams, a fight towards the end, and Buffalo 9.9 times out of 10 is always on the wrong side of it. And yesterday, the Bills found a way to be on the right side of it. And did you see the emotion from Sean McDermott after the game? I feared for his health. I thought he was going to collapse. Right? He had to have so much euphoria going through his body and so much elation going through his body. It looked like he was about to freeze up. His body got numb, and I thought he was hitting the floor. I did. Like, I was really fearing for his health when they showed him on the sideline because he was shocked. He just didn't know how to handle this because, you know, if they lose that game, it just gets louder and louder and louder that you should lose your job. Now, he'll never admit that. I would be very surprised if he ever acknowledges that. But he knows what the conversation was about him. So now the Buffalo Bills have new life. Now the Buffalo Bills are 7-6. And I'll just ask this simple question. Are the Buffalo Bills back? And I think there's one way to answer it. But before I give you the answer, I'm going to see if my guys know the answer. And I'm going to see if my guys know the way I'm going to answer this question. We'll start things off with Pat Boyle, who was rubbing elbows this weekend with the owner of the New York Islanders and John Ledecky, and now has all this free gear, stuffed his face with a bunch of rich, fancy food, and has all this disgusting Islanders gear. Pat Boyle, after giving John Ledecky a back massage over this weekend, when I asked the question, are the Bills back, how do you think I'm going to answer this?
Well, first of all, thank you for that pleasant intro, Zach. And I'd like to respond. I would just like to respond really quickly that you, as a Ranger fan, you guys can win all the Stanley Cups that you'd like to win in December and January.
I haven't claimed anything about this season.
Because they usually don't win them in May and June.
Pat, do me a favor. Don't confuse Mraz's takes and where he claims the Rangers are winning the Cup each and every year with my takes. I am a very knowledgeable, somewhat level-headed Ranger fan.
Oh, I know you are.
I like the start of this season. I have not proclaimed anything about what I think this team can potentially do. So, little brother, you hush up, you be quiet, and you just answer my question, you SOB. Do you think the Buffalo Bills are back?
I would say the Buffalo Bills are back in the landscape of they're going to the playoffs, yes.
Okay. Stuart Kovacs, are the Buffalo Bills back? How do you answer this question?
Absolutely. The AFC's wide open, especially in that wild card range. I think they're definitely a playoff team. I don't think they're a Super Bowl contender, but I think in terms of being a playoff team, maybe winning a game, yes, they're back.
I'm not ready to say it. And the reason why I'm not ready to say it is the Buffalo Bills all throughout the year have been on this seesaw ride. They win, they lose. They win, they lose. They win, they lose. It's been never ending. You look at this season. They lost to the Jets when Aaron Rodgers gets hurt 4 plays into the season. Then they beat the crappy Raiders and the Commanders. Then they beat the Dolphins. Then they lose to the Jaguars in London. They barely beat the Giants. They lose to the Patriots. You had Mac Jones and Mike Gesicki doing the gritty in the end zone. I don't think I heard a peep from either of those two after that game. You know, both those guys may be in the witness protection program, for crying out loud. Then they beat Tampa Bay. They lose to Cincinnati. They lose to Denver because McDermott, when Sean Payton's doing one of the dumbest things in the world, where he snaps the ball, takes the knee, then runs on his kicker as the clock was winding down. They didn't have the right amount of guys on the field, and they had too many men on the field. And then the next thing you know, the Broncos hit the field goal after the second opportunity. Then they beat the lowly Jets. They lose to the Eagles. Bye week, they beat Kansas City. Like this, I don't get how anyone can have a feel on this team. And Stu, I hear you, and I hear Pat as well, where you look at it and you go, man, they still got Josh Allen, right? And you look at the AFC this year, well, the Dolphins are 9-3. Buffalo beat the Dolphins by a pretty big margin. The Ravens, as good as they are defensively, and as good of a quarterback Lamar Jackson is, he hasn't been able to finish the season healthy. The team that's always been in the way, Kansas City, oh, well, they just beat them yesterday, and Kansas City looks vulnerable. And then after that, you look at this in the AFC, and I know the Dolphins play tonight. You have the Ravens at 10-3. You have the Dolphins at 9-3. Then from seeds 3 through 11, and remember, only 7 make it. You have 8-5 Kansas City, 8-5 Jacksonville, 8-5 Cleveland. And by the way, here we go, Brownies, here we go. Hoo, hoo. How about the elite Joe Flacco? Here we go, Brownies. Here we go. Woof, woof. Steelers 7-6. Colts 7-6. Texans 7-6. Broncos 7-6. Bengals 7-6. Titans. The Buffalo Bills 7-6. Let's play drops that actually make sense, Pat Boyle, when we're going to play drops. Remember, you're the fill-in. You're not the permanent guy that is pressing all those sounders today. But, so yeah, like you look at that, you could very easily be not that far off from being a wild card team. They're still in contention. But I'm not ready to proclaim the Buffalo Bills are back until we see the outcome of their next game. And the outcome of their next game is up against the Dallas Cowboys. And you know this, and I know this. I'll tell you this right now on a Monday. After about 20 minutes ago, I just had to give the Cowboys a lot of praise, and it hurt me. But I'm fair. I say the Cowboys now are a likable team. Doesn't mean I'm rooting for them, but there's a lot of easy guys to root for on that team, and maybe they're finally starting to put it together. We'll see what happens come playoff time. Buffalo wins this game next week. They could accomplish anything they want this year inside the AFC. And you could bet your ass right now. I haven't even looked at the spread yet. I'm picking the Bills this week. I can't give the Cowboys back-to-back weeks of praise. Now, Pat, you're usually pretty damn good in the gambling world. Or you think you're good in the gambling world. I don't know. With Boyle, I only see his winnings. I never see him post any of the bets that he actually loses. So I don't know how much you're actually winning.
I'll give you a little bet tonight on Twitter before the game starts.
Okay, let's save that for later in the show.
Sure.
But if you had to guesstimate right now, Bills and Cowboys, and that game is in Buffalo. It's a 4:25 p.m. kick, I believe on Sunday next week. What do you think the spread is right now? Who do you think the favorite is?
I was going to ask you the same thing, and luckily you started speaking as I was bringing up the schedule for next week.
Mm-hmm. Did you look at it yet?
No, I have not.
Okay. I am going to guess. Bills are the home team. They're going to be a dog, though.
You want my guess first?
I'm going to say it's Dallas by 3.5.
No, I'm going to say less than the hook. I say Cowboys 2.5.
You say Cowboys 2.5.
They want early action on Dallas.
Okay. Wow. You think it's Cowboys minus 2.5?
Cowboys minus 2.5.
And I said Cowboys minus 3.5. Pat Boyle, survey says, Zach Gelb. Speaking to myself in the third person, that's not ever a good sign. Survey says, the Buffalo Bills are the favorite right now by 2 points.
Yeah, they really want action on Dallas.
I think that is begging everyone to plus the 2 points with the Dallas Cowboys. Because say what you want about the Cowboys. Outside of their performance against the 49ers and the Eagles, the first time where we expected them to lose, the Cowboys have been the more consistent team, and it's not even close. I think a lot of people are going to be taking the Cowboys. Oh, the disrespect. The 10-3 Dallas Cowboys coming off a big win where they smothered the team that was in the Super Bowl last year. I love the Bills this week. I do. And then Buffalo wins, then I'll say they're back. And Buffalo, you look at this year, it's been tough for the last few years to get to the Super Bowl because Kansas City has taken a hit. We'll see who prevails in the AFC South. In the AFC East, the Dolphins still haven't beaten a great team yet. The Ravens, phenomenal. I love Lamar Jackson. Bills have beaten Lamar Jackson before in a playoff game where he threw that 102-yard pick, I believe it was, to Teron Johnson. Buffalo has a little life, right? They were on life support last week. And now you're starting to hear a little beat of the heart. And maybe they walk out of sports hospice. Maybe they walk out of sports hospice at the end of next weekend, and they could go continue to live their life and maybe jump for joy and find a way to get to the Super Bowl. But before I even go there and even envision that, the Buffalo Bills, with Josh Allen, who is a dog, the Buffalo Bills must win next week. They lose next week, it's 7-7. And yeah, the schedule, you look at it the rest of the way. You have the Chargers, the Pats who stink, and then you play the Dolphins. There's still a chance to make the playoffs. But I won't feel all too good about it if you lose this week up against the Dallas Cowboys. Are the Buffalo Bills back? 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. We'll take a break. We'll update you on some of the biggest stories in the world of sports when we return with the News Brief.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Time for your daily news brief. We get you caught up on the rumors, reports, and reconnaissance from the day in sports.
You can stream the NFL on Westwood One for free, sponsored by AutoZone all season long. You can listen to every Westwood One broadcast of the NFL live on the NFL app by asking Alexa to open Westwood One Sports or on the Odyssey app. Get in the zone, AutoZone. AutoZone's free battery testing and charging is available for free at your local AutoZone. Get in the zone, AutoZone. Restrictions apply. All righty, let's start the news brief off with Fred Warner of the dominant San Francisco 49ers. He got in a little kerfuffle at the end of the game with DK Metcalf of the Seattle Seahawks. And here is Fred Warner on his fight with DK.
I don't know what happened, man. I told him he tackles really well, and then for some reason he didn't like that. And, I guess what happened. And it's unfortunate, man. You got to learn to keep his composure, but happy we came out with the dub.
There is no way Fred Warner, and I love the sarcasm. I told him he tackles well for a wide receiver that after a mistake. If Warner actually said that, that's gold. Because that's like the trash talking that I like, is when you give someone a compliment, but you know it's a backhanded compliment. Because the last thing DK Metcalf actually wants to do is be in a position to tackle someone, because that means his team made a mistake. That's a gold response. That is a rich response from Fred Warner. I love it. Here is Antonio Pierce. Hey, Stu, I missed the Vikings-Raiders game yesterday. How'd that finish?
Lucky you.
How'd that finish?
That would be a 3-0 Vikings win after a 0-0 game for 58 minutes.
Yeah, I watched the entirety of the game. I had it on football. I had it on my iPad here in the studio. What a disaster that was. Seriously. 3-0? Like, yeah, it stinks. Justin Jefferson comes back, then gets hurt, had to go to a local hospital. Hope all is okay with him. But how the heck, between those two teams, now I give credit to Brian Flores. His defense, he has done wonders for that Vikings defense. They were one of the worst units in the league last year. But it's not like the Raiders have this phenomenal defense either. I know quarterback play is not really apparent for either of those teams, as Josh Dobbs got benched for the Vikings. So much for that great story. And then you have Aiden O'Connell, who shouldn't be a starting quarterback in this league. But with some of the weapons that both these teams have, even with Justin Jefferson getting hurt, only 3 points? Here is Antonio Pierce criticizing his team after a loss.
No excuse there. It is shocking. Plenty of time to prepare for opponent. Knew what they did, nothing new. Just, again, poor coaching, poor performance by the players. Starts with myself. 3-point ball game. Yeah, you're frustrated. But at this point, you can't really point yourselves. There was opportunity for us on defense to get off the field on third down. And that's the easy way to go. But as a team, like I tell them, we win together, we lose together. It wasn't a good performance by us overall.
So, Stu, it's now been 4 games with Antonio Pierce as the interim head coach. They beat the Giants. They beat the Jets. 2 brutal football teams. They lose a respectable game to the Dolphins. They lose a game to Kansas City, where they played well in the first half. It's actually been 5 games because you factor in the game yesterday, the Vikings. And yesterday, the defense was fine, but the offense did jack. So that's 5 games, 2 wins, 3 losses on a scale of 1 to 10. 1, you don't want him. 10, you want him. Where's your rating on Antonio Pierce in terms of wanting him as the next head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders?
I'm not going to blame. It's hard to. It's hard. It's a tough situation for him. I'd say like 3.5 or 4. I'm not. I'd probably not bring him back. Honestly, I would maybe even bring in Flores. I yesterday kind of was like, interesting. Maybe Flores could be a guy that could
and that
turn
would fit with
around.
the Raider trend.
Yeah.
Because then they'll eventually have to fire a coach that has a pending lawsuit with the league, as they did that with John Gruden, right? The separation, and Flores still has a lawsuit with the NFL as well. Flores, he should get looks for head coaches, for head coaching vacancies. But will he actually get hired with this lawsuit that is going on with the NFL? So that's one thing. Jim Harbaugh maybe staying at Michigan. I know you wanted Harbaugh to be coaching the Raiders. Johnson from the Lions, I think he'll have better opportunities than the Raiders. But outside of that, slim pickings in terms of names that we could really gather towards. Like Lou Anarumo would be a solid hire as a defensive-minded coach. Would you have any interest of bringing back Rich Bisaccia, who they should have made the full-time coach a few years ago and then elected to hire Josh McDaniels?
I think that's sailed. I think that's gone.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd probably rather have Pierce at this point.
Let's go to Russell Wilson. Broncos bounce back with the win. After losing last week, they find a way to get the job done and control the game against the Chargers. Russell Wilson makes it clear that this team is only getting better.
We're steady, climbing. It's climbing a mountain's not easy. You know that there's going to be bumps in the way and there's going to be stuff that it's going to try to knock you off. But we just got to stay focused on the peak and stay focused on what we're trying to do, understanding that we're doing this together. It's going to take all of us. It's going to take all of us. It's going to take all of us. We got to get better. And starting with me, and we're all going to get better as a collective group.
They're 7-6. Their final 4 games against the Lions, winnable game. Lions haven't been playing good football the last few weeks. They play the Patriots, who stink, the Chargers, who stink, and the Raiders, who stink. They're going to make the playoffs. And the reason why I sigh has nothing to do with Denver. It's because I know Hot Take Hickey, who in the offseason doubled down on the Broncos after saying they were going to be in the Super Bowl last year and win the Super Bowl. He's like, oh, Sean Payton will fix them. Oh, Russell Wilson will be back. Oh, the Broncos are going to be going to the playoffs. He gave up on them 4 or 5 weeks into the season because they were so bad at 1-5. And you know Hickey is going to be taking a victory lap like we've never seen before. It would actually be embarrassing, even with how much these teams are bunched up together, when your toughest game are the Lions in the final 4 weeks of the season, and they should find a way, bare minimum, to win 3 out of those 4 games. They don't get 10 wins bare minimum. That's a bad job by the Broncos the rest of the way, even with their poor start of being 1-5. Let's go to Brandon Staley. This guy really makes me annoyed because the last few weeks he took zero accountability and tried to tell you that everything was fine. We all know the talent that they have, and the arrogance of Brandon Staley is just so obnoxious because he is the meme of, that dog sitting at the table as the house is burning down, and he's saying everything is fine. I have not heard this yet, but here's Brandon Staley on the issues that the Chargers have.
It's just been a combination of things. Our guys have competed the whole way. Certainly today when you lose Justin, that's going to affect, the outcome, but we've just been a little bit off. And, today wasn't good enough, and our guys are going to have to dig in. We still have, games left to compete. We're not out of it yet, and we're going to have to dig in and compete on Thursday night.
Oh, you're out of it, though. Yeah, you're really out of it, bro. You're 5-8. You have all this talent, and now your quarterback's injured. The fat lady sang on your season like 2-3 weeks ago. Your tenure as the coach, it already should be over. And you already should have been fired, and you should have been handed the pink slip a few weeks ago. It's coming in 3-4 weeks. Coach Prime got to Colorado. He said, we coming. Spanos family, they're coming for you, Staley. You're done. You finish. And it's embarrassing. And I understand your quarterback gets hurt yesterday. That stinks. Sucks. But the week before that, your quarterback was on the field, and you scored 6 points. That's even in a win. You're lucky the Patriots couldn't score anything. But come on, I don't want to hear, and I also understand, what else he's supposed to say. But this team could dig deep as much as they want. They could inspire the mentality of the 85 Bears. It don't matter. They could be the 72 Dolphins have that mentality. It won't matter. You're 5-8. It's too crowded, and you are a bad coach. Here is Jaden Daniels after winning the Heisman Trophy on overcoming obstacles.
I want to dedicate this award to every boy and girl who has a dream. With faith and hard work, you never know what's possible. They said I was too skinny, so I added weight. They said I relied on my legs a little bit too much. So, I went to work, completed all those passes, had the season I had. So I thank everybody out there. And they said I was too quiet, so, I became more vocal. I stepped out of my comfort zone, and now I'm here today.
I got a chance to talk to Jaden Daniels a few hours right before he won the Heisman Trophy. I was at the ceremony in New York City over the weekend. And I asked him about his NFL future. And I get it. It's right when he's about to win the Heisman, so you're not really thinking about that. But just a really respectable guy and someone that I agree with Kirk Herbstreit. He could be the steal of the draft. Now, he should be a first-round pick, but if he starts to fall a little bit and you're able to go snatch him, that dude put up a wonderful season this past year. Over 4,000 yards passing, 1,100 rushing yards. He was dominant, and all everyone's talking about is Caleb Williams and Drake May. Team's going to be very happy when they select him in the draft. Let's go to Bill Belichick. This is on ESPN College Game Day. Here was his Army-Navy pick. Bill Belichick showing a smile, showing a little bit of a personality. Never thought I would see that.
My pick on this one?
Sir.
Yes, sir. Coach, I'm going to take a page out of your book here. I'm going to go with the 1962... This is the Jolly Roger, beat Army in Chinese for Paul Dietzel's Chinese Bandits. Go Navy, beat Army.
It's amazing. Dry humor really does sell. Because Belichick doesn't change the inflection in his voice at all when he's in a happy moment. And it's still that mumbling, whining sounding noise that comes out of his mouth. And still, everyone's laughing. And they're dying because it was a really good visual moment when Belichick has the old school helmet and he's giving everyone like a history lesson, and everyone loved it. Look at Billy B. Show a little personality. Urban Meyer on 3 with Tim May doesn't understand Kyle McCord's decision to transfer.
That made no sense. I'm still trying to comprehend it. And I tried to take a position of Kyle or even Ohio State, and it just doesn't compute. He had a good year.
Yeah.
I mean, they beat Notre Dame, his first-time starter, 3 new offensive linemen. I'm trying to make it compute because I want to be empathetic, and I want to think, okay, I understand. There's no place better for Kyle than Ohio State. That place does not exist unless he's being guaranteed a starting spot. But once again, I don't agree with that's the best place.
I think he's going to Nebraska, Kyle McCord. I do. I think Kyle McCord will be the next starting quarterback at Nebraska. He hit the transfer portal, and I would imagine that decision went down because he wasn't guaranteed that he'd be the starting quarterback next season. And the decision may not make sense right now from the Kyle McCord standpoint of things until we see who does Ohio State bring in the transfer portal. Because if they get like Cam Ward, let's just say, oh, they upgraded the quarterback position. But they don't get someone in the transfer portal that you go ooh and ah about, yeah, it's going to look like a bad decision from Kyle McCord because we all know Ohio State, even though they came up small this year, has been one of the better offenses in college football the last few seasons, and they have wide receivers out the wazoo each and every year. This was embarrassing. Now, I can't really fault him because he's just playing, and that's what LeBron James always does. He plays when he's healthy. But this in-season tournament and this championship, how they had confetti and a trophy presentation and champagne afterwards for what did you win? No one's going to celebrate this. Everyone's going to clown you. But this is LeBron James on what motivated him to win this tournament that nobody cares about.
My rookies, my second-year guys, some of them haven't experienced playoff basketball. Some of their paychecks are not as equipped as some of the older guys on our team. So, and then some of our fans during the December and January months, they kind of stall out a little bit. So I felt like it's my obligation.
Good job.
And it's my responsibility to keep everybody engaged, including my teammates, including our fans for our beautiful sport. So that's why I was locked in from day one.
That's why I like LeBron James. LeBron basically just took a number 2 on this in-season tournament, but said, the reason why I wanted to compete was so my guys that don't make as much money made some more money, and also, let's be real why this is done, because Adam Silver thinks it's going to draw more eyeballs to the television sets when a lot of fans check out in November and December. Doesn't mean that we should do this tournament because this tournament is just a joke. But Silver standing there on the podium, this guy has accomplished everything but this. Like, are you kidding me? What are we going to do next? Why LeBron James is the GOAT? Because he has a mid-season tournament, MVP and championship, and Michael Jordan does not. Oh, give me a break. And Stu, you being a Lakers fan, Anthony Davis. It's so perfect that Anthony Davis plays a great game in the championship game. What do you have, like 40-something points?
He had like 40 and 20 rebounds. He had a hell of a game.
And now you have jackasses saying, he played great in a big game. Look at what Anthony Davis is capable of. All that matters if Anthony Davis, who's a phenomenal player, is healthy come postseason time. But it is very funny to me in what is considered a big game, and I say that in air quote, for a meaningless big game, Anthony Davis was good to go, and he was sensational. Oh, that was great.
Yeah, I'd love if he was healthy for an actual NBA playoff game. That would be good. That'd be great.
All righty, let's get 2 more in here. Stephen A. Smith rips Zion Williamson for his weight. This courtesy of the Stephen A. Smith Show.
Zion Williamson, he looks fat. He looks fat. Zion Williamson, who's more than 15 years younger, but 40 pounds heavier, went to the free throw line. Ladies and gentlemen, I saw a belly. A belly. Like when he took a deep breath, his belly bounced. Jeez. That kind of belly. I mean, damn. What's up, Zion?
Man, he really went after him. You wouldn't get that take on First Take, but on the Stephen A. Smith Show, that's where you get that take. And he's not wrong. Zion looked like he added a lot, and I mean a lot of pounds. And wasn't it? And this is what happens when you're a big guy, and I've been there. Your weight can fluctuate very easily. But before the season, people were praising the good shape that Zion Williamson was in. And now we're sitting in December, and he looks very, very large. And finally, here is Terry McAuley making sure on NBC last night after you were able to have the call marinate a little bit in the 4:25 p.m. Eastern time window when the ref said that Kadarius Toney was offside, which negated the Kelsey lateral to Toney for the score. It was the right call, and Terry McLaurin wanted to make sure that was clear on NBC.
This is clearly a foul. He can't be past the back of the ball. His whole body is in the neutral zone. It may even be beyond the neutral zone. You can see the receiver at the top lined up perfectly. That's where he should have been. And I would add, in past years, this has never been called. This would be technical. This would be a warning. This year it's been called 11 times as opposed to twice last year, only once in 2021. So this is being consistently called. He needs to be onside.
And this is not something that's up for interpretation. Like, sometimes you could see a catch, and like, was it a catch? Was it not a catch? You have no clue. Is it pass interference? Is it not pass interference? You have no clue. He is lined up, clear and obviously, offside. So I don't get what the big fuss is about outside of the Kansas City Chiefs just crying like a bunch of babies because they know down deep that their wide receivers are no bueno. Thank you very much. All righty, that's a news brief. It is Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Let's get the latest CBS Sports Radio update in with the Ackman, Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio. Sports Flash.
Well, Week 14 concludes with 2 games on Monday night. The Dolphins host the Titans, as well as the Packers and Giants in New Jersey. Miami enters this one at 9-3, looking to remain tied with the Ravens for the top seed in the AFC, though the Dolphins would love to get that first-round bye and home field throughout. Bradley Chubb said it's not their main goal.
I just feel like our goal is bigger than the number 1 seed, you know what I mean? Our goal is to host the trophy at the end, and that comes with handling business each and every week, no matter what the position is. So we kind of just continue the same approach each and every week, man, the same mindset, the same intensity.
Miami has won 3 in a row. The Packers have won their last 3, and the Giants, coming off their bye, have won back-to-back games before getting last Sunday off. Aaron Jones not expected to play tonight for Green Bay. Justin Lawrence is for the Giants. Justin Herbert unlikely to play against the Raiders Thursday after suffering a fractured finger on his right hand. The Browns have lost yet another tackle with DeJuan Jones done because of a knee injury that will require surgery. Kyle Hamilton is week to week with a sprained knee, and the Vikings said Justin Jefferson could play on Saturday after leaving yesterday's game due to a chest injury. I'm Rich Ackerman.
This is Jim Rome. We are talking to the biggest names in all of sports in the jungle weekdays from 12 to 3 Eastern on CBS Sports Radio.
CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
The Zach Gelb Show is on the air across the nation on CBS Sports Radio.
The winner of the SEC championship game will be in the college football playoff. There is no way, a 0.0% chance, that if Alabama wins the Iron Bowl and then defeats the best team in the country in Georgia, and they have one loss that occurred in September, there's no way the guys in charge of the College Football Playoff Committee don't find a way to put Alabama in the top 4.
Here's Zach Gelb.
All righty, this is Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Justin Fields is causing a good problem, I guess you could say, to have for the Chicago Bears. So Fields gets a nice victory yesterday, plays well. Him and DJ Moore have a really good connection, and we've now seen that. And when you take a glance at Justin Fields and the Chicago Bears, it's okay. They're winning a few more games than what we thought they were going to win. So now, moving forward, what are the Bears going to do this offseason? And it starts with the GM. Like, you look at Ryan Poles, I got to wonder if he's going to be back. And if he is back, then does he get rid of Matt Eberflus? I would assume that Eberflus is not back next year. In terms of Ryan Poles, I don't really think it's a conversation that a lot of us have had. And you have these draft picks where, in all likelihood, you're getting the number 1 overall pick. the Carolina Panthers may be the worst football team that I've ever seen. And in my lifetime, we've seen the Detroit Lions have 0 wins in a season. But that Panthers team, and they got 1 victory up against the Houston Texans, but that team is god-awful. They really are. And they don't have their first-round pick because they traded to go get Bryce Young. And now the Bears have that pick. And then the Bears have what's going to be, we used to say another top 5 pick, but now it's going to probably be a top 10 pick. So you could do a quick reset where you trade Fields, you get some capital back, you take a quarterback number 1 overall, and then you get another impact player with that second first-round pick. Fields, though, is making this decision tough. He is. Because he's not been great, but he's showing you some signs that maybe with the right coaching and some more talent around him, that he could be a player. And I do believe that Justin Fields will have some success eventually, consistent success eventually in the NFL. But then I try to use logic here. Because I think a lot of people get caught up in the moment of yesterday and go, oh, they beat the Lions, they dominated the Lions, Fields played well. How do you move off of him? And it comes down to dollars and cents. That's what helps me make sense here. He's got 2 years left on this contract, assuming they pick up the 5th-year option. I understand you could maybe say, take Marvin Harrison Jr., maybe like 2 or 3 overall. You trade back a spot. You get some capital with maybe the team that's 2nd or 3rd moving up to that 1 spot. And you still get Marvin Harrison Jr. You line up next year with Justin Fields, Marvin Harrison Jr., and DJ Moore. That's pretty damn good. That's some serious weapons for Justin Fields. But then Justin Fields has to put it all together the next season. Because if he doesn't, you start to narrow that window on the young group that you've assembled, and then also you have to then find the right guy. And it's not going to be better than this year when you are going, because of the just brutal way the Panthers play football, you're going to get the number 1 overall pick, and you're going to get that decision to be made. And we know in this league, you don't always have to be great to get great money. Now, Justin Fields so far isn't deserving of great money, but if he plays at a good level next year and you keep him, then he's going to want to cash in. And then there's that fear of maybe it just being a 1-year type of scenario. So I know a lot of times it doesn't make sense, or it's not great sports radio when you go, oh, I don't know what they should do. Because I could see both sides of this argument. But if I put myself in Ryan Poles' shoes, assuming he's still the GM, I trade Fields. I think you could get a 2, and maybe you put some conditions on that. You take a quarterback 1, and then I'd be aggressive. I would. Like you saw what the Texans did this past year. They took their quarterback 2, and they moved up from 11 or 12 all the way up to 3 to go get Will Anderson Jr. Wherever that second first-round pick is, whether it's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, wherever it is, I would be as aggressive as possible, move back up inside the top 3, and you get Caleb Williams or Drake May, whoever is the best quarterback in your mind. And then you also get Marvin Harrison Jr. That's what I would do. I would reset the franchise, and I would reset the time clock on having to pay a young quarterback. Boyle, where do you stand on this, by the way, with the future of Justin Fields? Because I do think it's very complicated, because Fields is playing well, but you haven't seen enough success from him in a bad situation where you know that you're not that far away from having to make a big decision on whether to pay this guy or not.
I think he has shown you enough glimpses of talent. I think he has shown you tremendous ability to use his legs and be the best guy on the football field of all 22 players with his legs. And I think he has cleaned up a lot of the mistakes with his arm this year and being able to read defenses. You can see he's quicker getting rid of the football, and when he doesn't have it, he tucks it and he's looking to run. Even if he takes a 1-yard sack, he's not going down for 6, 7-yard loss. I think Justin Fields should be the quarterback of this future, of this team.
Okay.
And this has been through multiple head coaches already in just 3 seasons, a defensive mind in Eberflus. A lot of people praise Ryan Poles, for what he's done. I think he has tried to screw up this organization almost at every corner with some of the trades they've made. But I
Claypool
think
was a bad trade, but Montez Sweat was a good trade. And then he did make the trade out of the number 1 overall pick, and now just got you that first overall pick and all that. Yeah. I'm not saying the guy's this phenomenal GM, don't get me wrong, but they have a head coaching vacancy this offseason. Like, let's assume that happens. They're an attractive destination.
They are.
Because they have the 2 first-round picks, and we'll see what decision they make on Justin Fields. Like, you talk about, because they're still building from the ground up. Like, this is not you're taking over and you have some nice furniture in the house, and you go, okay, this is a nice house. They still have to build and make these right picks. And I look at the head coaching vacancies. You know, who knows if Buffalo's going to open new life for Buffalo. Probably won't anyway. The Chargers are an attractive one because you already have Herbert there and a bunch of talent around him. But when you get through some of these teams that are bad teams, and that's why they're moving on, and they don't have a lot around them, not many more attractive destinations in the jobs that we expect to be open than the Bears. Like, you ask me right now, Bears or Commanders or Bears and Raiders, that's not even close. I'd rather run the gauntlet here with the Bears.
I just think as mediocre as they've been this year, and I know Fields has missed 4 games this year, and he got hurt his rookie season at the end. You know, to be 5-8 in a division that is probably a lot better top to bottom than everybody thought was going to be, considering how good the Packers have been lately, the Vikings even without Kirk Cousins. I don't think there's a need to reset the franchise clock. Just because you have those 2 first-round picks, you're basically, you're going to guarantee the number 1 overall pick. Doesn't mean you have to take a quarterback. Doesn't mean you have to reset and hire a new head coach. They've actually built, they've got a lot of good culture, and they've got a lot of good players on this roster already. Let Justin Fields and build with the 2 first-round draft picks that you know you're going to get, 2 top 10 draft picks that you know you're going to get. Add to that defense because there's still a bottom 10 unit on defense, and give him Marvin Harrison Jr. And they say, hey, now you've got a complement of weapons. Go out there and now make it happen in year 4. Prove to us you're the guy. I think he's got the talent. I think he's a damn good quarterback.
You just hope this doesn't turn out to be a Daniel Jones effect, where I do believe Fields is better than Jones, but then you pay the guy, you believe in the guy, and he lets you down the next year or 2.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Loaded third and final hour, Zach Gelb Show on this Monday, CBS Sports Radio. We'll get to No Huddle Offense in just a second. Seth Joyner, the former NFL linebacker, will stop by 20 minutes from now. And then coming up at 5:40 p.m. Eastern, 2:40 p.m. Pacific, we will get Pat's pick, as Pat Boyle has a big play on this game tonight. And we'll actually find out if he's a good gambler or not, instead of just posting all these winnings that he has. But we never see the entirety of Pat's pick. So we'll find out a lot tonight about Pat Boyle. And we'll also address Shohei Ohtani, a $700 million contract over 10 years, which really isn't 10 years with all the deferrals. But geez Louise, when I saw that over the weekend, I was like kind of stunned, because if he was still able to pitch next year, you knew you were going to be paying for two positions in one contract. But to see him still get $700 million with another injury and he's not going to be able to pitch for a year, I was shocked by that. Now, he's worth every penny. Don't get me wrong. He's the most exciting player in baseball. And it does seem right that he ends up going to the Dodgers, because people were speculating, Toronto. John Morosi and the Toronto Blue Jays were used by the Ohtani camp. There's no doubt about it, because you knew he was going to stay on the West Coast. I thought he was leaving the Angels, and I thought it was going to be either the Dodgers or the Giants. I said the Giants a few months ago, so that's why I was sticking with that. But the Giants can never land the big star, and now you get a lineup that will feature Mookie Betts, which, man, oh, man, the Red Sox trading Mookie Betts is maybe one of the dumbest things I've ever seen in the history of sports. And they got basically nothing back for him, and they traded Verdugo, who they got in the deal, over to the Yankees, which makes that look even worse. But now you have Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, and Shohei Ohtani in the same lineup. Dodgers ever get some healthy pitching, they could be a force to be reckoned with. But there's always that feeling of the Dodgers will find a way to mess it up when the big games do happen. But at least Ohtani will be in the postseason. I feel confident in saying that, because that's been one of the biggest injustices with the sport, that you have this great player, but you didn't get to see him in the postseason because the Angels don't know the difference between their elbow and their ass the last few years. They try to spend a lot of money. They definitely try. They try to get the big players, but they don't know how to win. So there's my thoughts on Shohei Ohtani. We'll get more into that coming up 40 minutes from now in Onside Offside, which we do every Monday and Friday here on CBS Sports Radio. We got 2 more games left in Week 14, but it is a Monday, so we get to a no-huddle offense.
Touchdowns, sacks, upsets, and last-minute heroics. Another NFL Sunday is in the books, and we've got you covered with the biggest plays and sound bites from another wild week in the National Football League. It's time for No Huddle Offense on the Zach Gelb Show.
My man Deebo Samuel, my BFF Deebo, even though he hung up on me this summer, he has been ridiculous the last 2 weeks. And we all know what he did in Philadelphia, putting up a hat trick. And then he goes on a Sunday for 7 catches, 149 yards, and 2 total touchdowns against the Seahawks. Run CMC, 16 carries for 145 yards. He's sensational. Brock Purdy looking pretty awesome. Rocking out with his Brock out, 19 of 27 for 368 yards and 2 touchdowns. Desmond Howard probably says he got that big Brock energy, I would imagine. And by the way, at the Heisman Trophy presentation, I love RG3. Do we need RG3 bringing up the Desmond Howard clip of the big Penix energy? Right when this guy is on stage with the other finalists, that's what RG3 is going to do at a classy ceremony like the Heisman Trophy. But man, Brock Purdy's looking amazing. And Drew Lock played fine for the Seahawks. They were in it for a little bit. But let's hear George Kittle put the game away 28-16 as Brock Purdy found him for a 44-yard touchdown.
Play action to him. Purdy going to throw down the sideline. Kittle's got it. The flag is down. 10-5. Touchdown! San Francisco!
So now you look at the 49ers. I'll say it. I'm not the first one to say it. They're the best team, not only in the NFC. They're the best team in football, period. And it's not even close. You look around the rest of football. Well, you're a Cowboy fan. Oh, what about us? You got blown out by the San Francisco 49ers. Eagle fan. Oh, what about us? You just got blown out by the San Francisco 49ers 2 weeks ago. No one else in the NFC you could really make a case for. The Lions now have lost 2 games in their last 3. And then you go to the AFC. Yeah, the Ravens are awesome. But it's not even close to the talent that the 49ers have compared to the Ravens. The Buffalo Bills, after 1 win against the Kansas City Chiefs, I'm not ready to say that the Bills are back. They got to go beat the Dallas Cowboys next week. Miami Dolphins, you got a really good team. But is your defense going to perform well up against the San Francisco 49ers? And I said this before the season about the Dolphins. I think the Dolphins are San Francisco light. I really do believe that. Like, they remind me a lot like the 49ers. The 49ers are just better. So it's clear, in a lot of ambiguity through the first 14 weeks of this season, where you don't really know how to feel about all these teams, outside of a 3-week stretch where Trent Williams was hurt and Deebo Samuel was hurt, the 49ers have been near perfect. Yeah, they lost those 3 games in a row, but when this team has their weapons, Brock Purdy, Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, they are so tough to beat. And they don't make it to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl this year, it'll be a massive disappointment. Vikings and Raiders, we have highlights from this game. The Vikings win 3-0 on a field goal. Ivan Pace Jr. with an interception in the 4th quarter. This is the highlight.
3-0 Minnesota with 1:57 to go. O'Connell takes the snap, throws over the middle. Intercepted! Yes! Picked off at the 34-yard line. And the Las Vegas Raiders have gone bust in a game against the Minnesota Vikings thanks to Ivan Pace Jr. And Ivan, with his first National Football League interception, has knocked out the Raiders, and the Minnesota Vikings are going to win 3-0.
Paul Allen is the most entertaining play-by-play guy that we have. Even Paul Allen couldn't make that game exciting. Josh Dobbs was benched in the game, 10 of 23 for 63 yards. Aiden O'Connell, well, he had 21 passes completed out of 32 for 171 yards and the interception that you just heard. This is the 7th 3-0 game in the Super Bowl era, and it's only the second 3-0 final score in the last 30 years. Miami and Pittsburgh did so in 2007. I'll just ask this question to both you guys. Is 3-0 the worst score that you could ever have in an NFL game? Pat Boyle, you first.
No. 2-0 would be worse.
I disagree. I'll get to that in just a second. Stu Kovacs.
No, I think 2-0 is better because at least the safety is kind of more entertaining than a field goal.
It's a memorable play.
Worst. It's the worst.
A safety is at least an exciting, memorable play. A field goal? That's a bunch of nonsense. When did we ever start respecting kickers around here? The only thing that would maybe be uglier is 0-0 overtime. So you get nothing in the first 60 minutes, and then you go into overtime, and no one is able to give you a win or a loss outcome. That's the only thing that I could argue.
But at least both teams, if it was 0-0, they both deserve a tie. None of those teams deserve to win. The Vikings didn't deserve to win, and certainly the Raiders didn't deserve to win.
That's a fair point that you bring up. Talking about a game that was exciting. Talking about a game that actually had some points. Rams and Ravens. 37-31 in overtime. Tylan Wallace. We all knew who he was before the game, right? Well, the game gets to overtime after a great kick. But then in overtime, Ravens go 3 and out to give the ball back to the Rams. The Rams could do nothing. And then Tylan Wallace fielded a punt. The referees missed an illegal block in the back. But that doesn't matter because the flag wasn't thrown, and you had a 76-yard game-winning punt return.
Wallace settles under it at the 25, gets a block, comes to the near side, 30. Spins out of one tackle, 35, along the near sideline, 40. He's at midfield. Wallace to the 40, still on his feet, 30, 20, 10. Celebration time. No flags. Wallace in the end zone. Hayes in the barn, and the Ravens win it in overtime.
That's how you seal a game.
Those refs, by the way, are so happy that the Chiefs offside was called, because we all like to examine officiating, and all you dweebs on social media, they like to slow down the play and show it 3,000 times. Because of how big that Chiefs-Bills offside was, which was clearly an offside penalty on Kadarius Toney, you usually only get like one officiating complaint a week. There's a lot more that you could get to, but one that really sticks nationally, and that's the one. But everyone would have been commenting on this Ravens-Rams no illegal block in the back call if it wasn't for the fact that Kadarius Toney didn't line up like basically a full yard offside. But still, it was a great game, classic game. Cooper Kupp was awesome, 8 catches for 115 yards and a touchdown. Matthew Stafford, 23 of 41, 294 yards, 3 touchdowns. The Ravens ran for 139 rushing yards, and Lamar Jackson had a big day, 316 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns, and completed 24 passes. I think the Ravens are the best team in the AFC. As long as the great 8 stays healthy, I believe the Baltimore Ravens, and I've been saying this the last few weeks, will be in the Super Bowl. But you got to get the job done. Like we talk about the 49ers. If they don't win the Super Bowl this year, it's an embarrassment. You look at the AFC. When the Chiefs are vulnerable, they already have 5 losses. The Dolphins, they have not beat a great team yet this season, even though their offense is so fun to watch. There's not a lot of teams that are standing there that you believe in. You can make the case you believe in no teams in the AFC. There will be no easier road for the Ravens to get to the Super Bowl than this year. They have a really damn good defense. And even though they don't have the great names on the offensive side of the ball in terms of who to throw the football to, Lamar Jackson is playing at a really high level. Bucks and Falcons. This was a wild game. So this was 19-10 Bucks going into the fourth quarter. And then the next thing you know, it looked like Atlanta was going to win this game. And then Baker Mayfield gets the football to Cade Otton for an 11-yard strike. This made it 29-25 Tampa Bay.
It's second down and 6 from the 11-yard line. Good snap. Mayfield looking. Throws the ball left. There's a caught ball, touchdown. Tampa Bay. Cade Otton makes it over the shoulder catch, and the Bucs retake the lead.
I love Gene Deckerhoff. The only thing that would be better if that game was in Tampa Bay, because then he would be screaming, fire the cannons, fire the cannons, fire the cannons. 29-25, Bucs take care of business against the Atlanta Falcons. Once again, Rachaad White had a touchdown in the third quarter to make it 19-10 Tampa Bay. Then Bijan Robinson had a touchdown run to make it 19-17. Tampa Bay was still on top. Then Chase McLaughlin made a field goal to extend the Tampa Bay lead 22-17. Then Desmond Ridder on a 6-yard run. The 2-point conversion was good to Drake London, who was sensational in this game, had over 170 receiving yards to make it 25-22. in favor of Atlanta. And then with 31 seconds left, Cade Otton gets the touchdown from Baker Mayfield to make it 29-25. And then there was a Hail Mary that was completed, but I think it was Drake London. He was tackled right at the 4-yard line, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers win. Now you have 3 NFC South teams at 6-7. I don't believe in the Saints. At least the Bucs, right? They have some strong defensive players, even with some injuries. I'm going to go back to, even though they lost yesterday, that Atlanta's offensive talent finds a way to win out, even without having a quarterback, basically. But guys like Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algier, and Drake London will find a way to get to 8 wins. Probably wins that division. Maybe 9 at most, and Atlanta will have a home playoff game. Jaguars and Browns. Joe Flacco, elite. Here's a 41-yard touchdown pass to a man out of Purdue that I loved as a college football wide receiver, David Bell, as Joe Flacco goes 26 of 45, 311 yards, 3 touchdowns in a Cleveland Browns win.
Flacco on 4th down and 3. Play clock is at 5. I don't know if they're going to snap it. Play clock is at 2. They do. He rolls right. He throws the middle. It's wide open. Down at the 25, at the 20, 15, 10, 5. Touchdown. It's David Bell.
Woof, woof. How about the Cleveland Browns? Here we go, Brownies. Here we go. Now, I'm not a Cleveland Browns fan. Pat Boyle grew up as a Cleveland Browns fan, but has since given up on that football team. Now with Joe Flacco as the quarterback for the rest of the season, even though protocols had to put him in the practice squad back today, but he'll get a deal for the rest of the season. Are you back in on your Cleveland Browns, Pat Boyle?
No.
Why not? Joe Flacco's been a great story. He's playing elite.
I also watched Joe Flacco look like a human statue last year with the Jets. I know what Joe Flacco's about. He's a Super Bowl MVP. Mm-hmm. He's a champion.
He's elite.
Yeah. Well, no, not anymore. He's not.
Yeah, he is. He's elite.
No, he's not.
He's always been elite.
Come on, stop.
He's never been average. He's always been elite.
He's not. He's not. He played a great game, and I got to give it to him. Mm-hmm. And Trevor Lawrence obviously was not 100%.
Yeah, high ankle sprain.
The Jaguars, this is the time to play them right now. They played him at a good time. The Browns, Flacco did a great job. Look,
they're making the playoffs, though.
I'll give Kevin Stefanski this. He deservedly won Coach of the Year 2 years ago. He is top 5 coach in the NFL. And the fact that they have used 4 quarterbacks this year, that they have, was it Dorian Thompson-Robinson, Deshaun Watson can't play, there's P.J. Walker. Now it's Joe Flacco.
The great P.J. Walker out of Temple.
Yes, the great P.J. Walker. And they are 8-5, and they've got the best defense, arguably, in the NFL, and they're in a position to make the playoffs.
With Myles Garrett hurt now, and you have Nick Chubb done for the season.
Yes, and they lost Nick Chubb. Good point, because I feel like a lot of people just gloss over that.
One of the best running backs in football.
Kevin Stefanski is going to be probably a favorite to win NFL Coach of the Year again. DeMeco Ryans, maybe. We'll see how the rest of the season plays out.
Shane Steichen, if the Colts make the playoffs?
Yes, he's done a great job as well regarding Minshew, however you want to say his name. We know a fellow New York radio host can't get his name right. Anyway, the Browns have done a great job. No, I'm not back in on them. I'm not a fan of the team.
They're making the playoffs, though.
For Browns fans that thought this season was over a month ago, then thought it was over again 3 weeks ago, maybe still don't think that this team can really do anything in the playoffs, they can't.
They're 8-5.
But it's a nice ride. It's a nice ride for them, but they're not beating Lamar Jackson in the playoffs.
Sure.
They are
but
not
no
going
one's
to
saying that.
So what are we saying?
We're saying they're going to make the playoffs. No one's sitting here today saying the Cleveland Browns are a Super Bowl contender.
They're not going to win a playoff game, even if they do make the playoffs.
With that defense, they could find a way to win a playoff game if they get the right matchup. They're 8-5. Their last 4 games, the Bears, the Texans, the Jets, and the Bengals.
They better win 2 of them.
They will. They'll be a 10-win team this year.
You sure?
Yeah, I just said it. Unlike you, I say everything that I think, I believe, I say it, and yeah.
I can see the Browns. I can see the Browns maybe squeaking out a win in one of these next 3 games. Probably the Jets.
Maybe?
Yes. I could see the Browns being 9-7. Winners in on the final day of the season against the Bengals.
Jake Browning
and
Joe
Jake
Flacco.
Browning beats them.
Okay. I would like that final game of the season. That could be a Sunday Night Football NBC game. Bum bum bada bum bum bada 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 bum. And finally, Texans and Jets. Zach Wilson, a 15-yard touchdown pass to old man Cobb, Randall Cobb.
Shotgun. Zach Wilson to his left is Breece Hall. He drops back to throw. Has time. Sidearms one over the middle. It's caught. Running right. Randall Cobb at the 10. 5 into the end zone. That's a Jet touchdown.
What a performance. Zach is back. Zach Wilson, for 1 game. 27-36, 301 yards and 2 touchdowns. Bad game by the Texans. However, they're 7-6. I'm still not concerned. When you have a young quarterback, a first-year head coach, those types of inexcusable games are going to happen. You had the receiver, Nico Collins, go down with an injury after losing Tank Dell for the season. Their final 4 games, you have 2 against Tennessee. You have Cleveland, the great Cleveland Browns, and then also the Indianapolis Colts to finish off the season. It's congested in the AFC. There's no doubt about it, but I still believe that C.J. Stroud will lead this team to the playoffs. That is your Week 14 No Huddle Offense. Seth Joyner will join us next. Where is his concern level with the Philadelphia Eagles?
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. 30 seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Zach Gelb Show.
All righty, this is Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Let's go out to the guest line right now. Welcome in a Super Bowl champion, a 3-time Pro Bowler, and that, of course, is the former NFL linebacker in Seth Joyner, kind enough to join us right now on CBS Sports Radio. Seth, appreciate the time as always. How you been?
You guys, Zach, everything's great, man. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm doing fantastic and appreciate you jumping on board. So the Eagles, the last 2 weeks, they got their doors blown off against the 49ers and the Cowboys. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1, no concern in the world, 10, all the concern in the world, where's your concern level at with this Philadelphia Eagles team?
Oh, I mean, it's definitely, all the concern, most certainly at a 10. To start your season off, you get to 9-1, then you get to 10-1, and, you've got complete control over your destiny as far as the division is concerned, as far as the conference is concerned, and in 2 weeks, all of that evaporates away. To say that, the fans, the media, and to a certain extent the team should be concerned with where they are and how they've played the last, 2 games, is an understatement in my opinion.
How do they get this right?
Well, listen, I think that, when you're winning, it's easy to kind of gloss over the things that, it's easy to gloss over your flaws and the things that, the mistakes that you make because you find a way to win. I think that there are some fundamental flaws, with this football team that, in week 14, 15, you're not going to be able to fix those things. They are what they are. Obviously they can play better. They can execute their offense and their defense much better. But I think that there are some fundamental and technical flaws with this football team, that are irreparable at this point in time.
Seth Joyner here with us. What kind of performance do you think you'll see out of Seattle? They play them on Monday when the Eagles go up against Seattle. We know the Seahawks need a win in the worst way, but now for Philadelphia, this is where we're going to find out what they're made out of, because they start to lose 3 in a row, then a lot more people are going to start piling on with this team. So what response do the Eagles have on Monday night?
Well, listen, we thought the same thing after the San Francisco game. Now's the time to find out, what this football team is actually made of, because, the division is now on the line, and your lead in the conference has dwindled to 1 game. That was the time to really show what they were made of. And they came out last night against the Cowboys on national TV and pretty much, laid an egg. I didn't see the effort. I didn't see the urgency, none of that stuff. So now when you lose games like that, you give up 75 points in 2 games total. You're giving up 37.5 points over the last 2 weeks. Other teams, the teams that are left on your schedule that at one point when you were, the talk of the league, now all of a sudden those teams look at you as gettable. So this isn't going to be a cakewalk going into Seattle. The Eagles haven't won in Seattle in a long time. They've never beaten Pete Carroll, as a matter of fact. So now you have to go to Seattle. That game has been flexed to a Monday night game. So now you're out on Front Street again for the world to see. And you're going to face a Seattle team whose backs are against the wall, who now believe, that they can beat you, and they're going to give you their best shot. And now you're going to have to find out whether this football team has got that fight in them, because, from here on out, I mean, even though they got the Giants, the Cardinals, and the Giants, to end the season, if you think that those 2 teams don't think that they can beat the Eagles based upon what they've witnessed the last 2 weeks, then you're crazy. because they believe now that, hey, we can get a win against, what used to be the elite team in the National Football League.
How do you think, Seth, that we're talking about this team at the end of the season? Like right now, okay, the last 2 weeks have been brutal. As you said, it's tough to turn it around and correct some of these issues this late in the season. But how do you see the rest of the season playing out? Like what round do you think this team is heading towards in the playoffs?
Well, listen, I mean, with a snap of a finger in 2 weeks, they've gone from the number 1 seed to the number 5 seed, and they've got a one-game lead on the Cowboys on the division. So obviously, another loss could spell absolute doom for them. From not only a divisional standpoint, but also from the conference standpoint. They've just got to execute better. They've got to play with more of a sense of urgency as to where they are and, what needs to happen. They need to coach better. The offense and the defense needs to, have a lot more creativity to it. And I believe that, they need to embody a much more aggressive posture from the standpoint of how they play defense, because the bend but don't break methodology can only carry you so far. At some point in time in every single game, you have to it requires you to play aggressive. And that's not only, from a front and a linebacker standpoint, but that's from a secondary standpoint. And that's not their nature. That's not what they want to be. They want to prevent the big explosive plays, and they want to create explosive plays on the other side of the ball. Conversely, it takes the same thing. You can't expect to get the explosive plays if you don't run the football well and you're not setting up, the right and the opportunity to get explosive plays down the field. Teams are just not going to give you that. So, there are some things that they have to change, and there's some things that they have to, do better. Just based upon what, I've seen the last 2 weeks, it's hard for me to believe that they can right the ship, but, that's why they play the game on Sunday. We'll see what they're made of.
Seth Joyner here with us. The last 2 years, we all knew what the Cowboys were. They could win a bunch of games in the regular season, but when push comes to shove, they don't get the job done in the postseason against the better teams. When you look at Dallas, that was a big statement that they made last night up against the Eagles. How far are you willing to go in terms of what the Cowboys can accomplish this year?
Well, I mean, until they prove that they can get it done when it really, really counts. I mean, it's still a regular season game, and the Eagles still hold the tiebreaker over them for the division, So while, yes, it's a statement game for them to prove that, hey, they can take a step in that direction, at the end of the day, they've got, they got to go to Buffalo. They got to go to Miami. I'm trying to think. They've got one more tough game at home before they finish up with Washington, which is always, no matter how bad Washington is, that's always a dogfight for them. So until they can prove that, they can run the table and get in the playoffs and win a game when it really matters most in the playoffs, they're still the Dallas Cowboys, and I look for them at some point to falter like they have, the last 10 years.
Yeah. You know what? It's crazy, and I think we're on the same page here. I call them the drama Dallas choking Cowboys, and I know that you'll never root for the Cowboys. This team, though, is very likable this year. They're like, you take the Philly stuff out of it, they are an easy team to watch when you see them play football.
Well, listen, I mean, Dak's playing well. Ever since they lost to, the Eagles in the first game, he's been playing lights out. There's no doubt about it. I think the guy's got 24 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. I'm not beyond giving credit where credit is due. Defensively, they're extremely opportunistic, but I've seen teams be able to run the football on them, and when I think you can commit to running the football on that defense, that opens up your ability to pass the ball, which the Eagles did not do last night. And, then you have an opportunity, to be successful against them. Listen, I wouldn't take anything away from them. They had their rough patch, like any other team throughout the years had their rough patch. The Eagles are in their rough patch right now after, such a great start. But, my football eye still tells me, we'll see. I see, the Eagles are struggling to find their footing again. I see the San Francisco 49ers hitting their stride. I see, the Dallas Cowboys with a quarterback who's playing efficiently and a defense, who is very opportunistic, especially if you give them, a lead. But down the stretch, everybody's got to prove who and what they are. They got to win the games that they got to win. And when you get into the postseason, that's where the rubber really meets the road. So we'll see.
Seth Joyner right now with Week 14 wrapping up tonight as we have a doubleheader on Monday Night Football. Who would you say the MVP is of the NFL this season?
I really haven't seen a quarterback that's torn it up all season long. I think what Tyreek Hill is doing is just ridiculous. And I think if he reaches 2,000 yards receiving,
he should get
the amount of touchdowns that he's putting up, if I had a vote, I'd vote him the MVP.
Yeah, and I 100% agree with you. I just have zero confidence that the voters will do that because this now seems like a quarterback award, and we haven't seen a non-quarterback win it since 2012, and there's never been a wide receiver, unfortunately, that has won it. I just don't trust the voters to give it to Tyreek Hill because some will then say, oh, Tua should get it on his own team, even though I agree with your analysis.
Well, listen, you can make that argument for Tua, but when you see a quarterback throw the ball, Brock Purdy falls into that same arena. When you see a quarterback throwing balls 15, to 20 yards downfield and your wide receivers turn them into 75, 80 yards touchdowns, you also got to give some credit to the guys, that's getting those yak yards and those yards after contact as well. So to your point, yeah, you're right. It's traditionally a quarterback-driven award, but I think the circumstances are extenuating this year because you look at Patrick Mahomes, he doesn't look like, a MVP quarterback this year, even as great as he is. And all the other quarterbacks that had their games where they've looked like MVPs and then turned around and played like non-MVPs. The one constant that you've seen all season long is Tyreek Hill has just terrorized secondaries all season long, and that's been consistent.
Last thing I'll ask you, Seth Joyner. The Chiefs did a lot of complaining yesterday after there was an obvious call by the officials. Kadarius Toney was clearly lined up offside. How have you reacted to all the complaining that Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes did after that one yesterday?
Listen, I understand why they're complaining, but, you need to shut it down and stop it. You won a Super Bowl, last year off a questionable call because it could have easily been that, you could have let that holding call on Juju Smith-Schuster by James Bradbury, you could have let that go. That referee knew the minute that he threw that flag that the Super Bowl, for all intents and purposes, was over, I should say. If you don't throw that flag or you pick that flag up, then Kansas City has to kick a field goal. The game is tied. Now Jalen Hurts has the ball with 1 minute and 50 seconds and 2 timeouts left to go down and see what he can do as far as having the Eagles having the chance to win that game. But the flag was the flag. Flag was thrown. The Eagles didn't complain about it. None of their coaches or players complained about it. So these guys need to stop complaining about the fact that the referees cost them a game. One play doesn't determine a game, especially a little Hail Mary, pass that you throw. There's some things that happen to put you in a situation where you need to do that. Maybe you need to address that rather than worrying about what the referees are doing, because every team in the National Football in time during the season could definitely complain about the calls by the referee and opportunities to win or lose football games because he's throwing.
Seth, always appreciate the time. Thanks so much for doing this. You be well. There you go. Seth Joyner joining us on the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. A little phone issue there at the end, but always enjoy when Seth jumps on board with us. We'll come on back. We got some questions. We got some answers. We do a little onside, offside. But first up with the latest CBS Sports Radio update, here is the Act Man, Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio. Sports Flag.
Well, the Ravens needed an overtime win for their 10th of the season to take over the top spot in the AFC. The Dolphins a half game behind them and will host the Titans tonight, with Miami looking for its 4th straight win against 4-8 Tennessee. The Packers trying to bolster their playoff hopes. They're 6-6 and also looking for their 4th in a row against the Giants. Matt LaFleur said certainly a lot on the line for his team tonight.
I think we're starting to improve as a football team, but you're only as good as your last game, and you got another challenge right in front of you. Again, a primetime game on the road against a team that beat us last year. And so I think that's plenty of motivation.
The Giants have won back-to-back games and are sticking with the newest sensation in New York, Tommy DeVito, at quarterback. The Chargers will likely be without Justin Herbert Thursday when they face the Raiders after Herbert suffered a fractured finger on his right hand. Browns tackle DeJuan Jones out for the rest of the season with knee surgery. And the Ravens' Kyle Hamilton week-to-week with a knee injury. Positive news for the Vikings as Justin Jefferson is expected to play on Saturday. He is day-to-day. I'm Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio's The Bart Winkler Show is your go-to December destination for the best sports talk on the radio. Don't forget, we're live 24/7 on social media, YouTube, Sirius XM Channel 158, and the free Odyssey app.
CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. 45 seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Zach's taking on the most polarizing issues in sports. Which side of the line of scrimmage will he end up on?
Offside. Defense number 69.
It's Onsides, Offsides with Zach Gelb on CBS Sports Radio.
Alrighty, onside, offside time right here on CBS Sports Radio. We turned it over to Stuart Kovacs. Stu, what do we got cooking today?
All right, Zach. Well, in college football, the Oregon Ducks landed arguably the biggest prize of the transfer portal on Saturday when former Oklahoma quarterback Dillon Gabriel announced that he is headed to Eugene for next season. Gabriel replaces Bo Nix, who had 40 passing touchdowns and just 3 interceptions for Dan Lanning's team this past season. So onsides, offsides, Oregon will reach the Final Four in next season's expanded playoffs with Dillon Gabriel.
I absolutely love this move by Dillon Gabriel, and I love this move by Oregon. Because when Bo Nix got there, he was an underwhelming quarterback his first 3 seasons at Auburn. And now you have the guy who was at UCF and then also Oklahoma that the last few years has 151 total touchdowns coming to your program. So a lot of experience and a lot of good experience there. With that being said, as much as I'm a big fan of Dan Lanning, you go into a tougher conference now in the Big Ten. I know the Pac-12 had an excellent season, and there's nothing taken away from that, but you have some good teams in the Big Ten, and also it's tougher to get to the Final Four because as Stu just laid out, the playoff expands to 12, where it's not okay, you're just in the 4 because you're one of the last 4 teams remaining when the playoff gets selected. So that's asking a lot after what was a really good but not great season for Oregon. So you say Oregon will reach the Final Four next season in the expanded playoff with Dillon Gabriel. As much as I like that program, I will go offside.
Offside.
Number 2.
All right, on Sunday, Bronny James made his long-anticipated debut for USC in their 84-79 loss to Long Beach State. Bronny came
what's funny?
Yeah.
They lost the game?
They lost the game. I actually didn't realize that till this morning.
I didn't hear anyone say that they lost the game. All I saw was that video of LeBron walking through as the game was about to start to see his son play. And then all the jokes when he got his first bucket that, he has more points than his dad ever had in college. That means he's going to be the better player. Those are the only 2 commentary that I heard about the game. I didn't even think to see who won or lost the game. I just assumed USC won.
And that made 2 of us until this morning I saw it. Bronny came off the bench. He played 17 minutes. He scored 4 points, had 3 rebounds, 2 steals, and a blocked shot. Onsides, offsides, Bronny James's performance is the most interesting storyline in college basketball this regular season.
Well, first off, good health to Bronny James, what he had to overcome back in the summer with the cardiac arrest. I can't even imagine what him and his family were going through. But I will answer this question by saying onside it is. Because college basketball, it's not a regular season sport. Like, I enjoy college basketball. But when do we ever really talk about college basketball in the regular season? It's usually right before conference tournament weekend and then in March Madness. So this is someone who is the son of one of the greatest basketball players of all time, and we're all wondering, how good is he actually? He's one of the players in college basketball that gives you a reason to just see what he's going to do night in and night out. So I will say onside, do you say Bronny James' performance is the most interesting storyline in college basketball the rest of the regular season?
The Lakers defeated the Pacers 123-109 on Saturday to win the inaugural NBA in-season tournament. This is what it sounded like when Commissioner Adam Silver presented the players with their medals.
To the city of Las Vegas, thank you so much for hosting the championships of our first ever in-season tournament. Been a fantastic couple of days here. To the Laker organization, Joey, to you, your sister Jeannie, Rob Pelinka, tremendous job, Coach Ham. Thank you very much. To the Indiana Pacers, thank you so much. Herb Simon and your organization, you guys put on a great show. We're trying something a little new this year. We have some medals to present, so kids, hand out the medals.
Well, Zach, it gets even worse as the Lakers in the past hour have announced that they will be hanging a banner. Now, it won't be the same as their regular championship banners. It'll be just one banner, and they will add to it, I guess, if they win any more of these in the coming years. But, yes, there will be a banner at Crypto.com Arena. So, Onsides, Offsides, the Lakers' celebration for winning this tournament was warranted.
Offside.
Offside.
Okay, so some of the players that don't have these lucrative contracts, they get more money. That's good for the younger players. A trophy presentation, it's not the Lakers' fault, it's the league's fault. There's no need for that. An MVP award of the in-season tournament, no need for that. And the Lakers, I don't care what pressure the league puts on them. A banner? This is the prestigious Los Angeles Lakers. A banner? You're going to see all the retired numbers in that stadium, all the championships, and then a mid-season tournament championship banner? That's a disgrace. Offside.
All right, moving to baseball. Shohei Ohtani has finally found a new home, but he won't be moving far as he leaves the Angels to sign with the Dodgers on a reported deal that is 10 years and $700 million. The contract far exceeds Aaron Judge's 9-year, $360 million deal, which is the largest in the sport's history. Onsides, Offsides, the Dodgers will win multiple World Series championships during Ohtani's tenure.
That's offside. They've had a great core. They've had a great team for the last few seasons, more than a few seasons. And they've only won one championship, and it was in that COVID condensed season as well of 2020. They still need more pitching, and they need more healthy pitching as well. The lineup's incredible when you see the three names that are in it, of Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, and Shohei Ohtani. But let's see Ohtani play in a postseason game first. Let's see him win one World Series first before we start talking about multiple World Series championships. Next one.
The Chargers lost quarterback Justin Herbert with a broken finger on his throwing hand in yesterday's 24-7 loss to the Broncos. And Herbert will reportedly miss Thursday's matchup against the Raiders, as Easton Stick will likely start. Through 4 seasons, Herbert has 32 losses, which is actually the third most in the last 10 years through 40 games, behind only Blake Bortles. He has 40, Derek Carr with 34, Jameis Winston with 33. So Herbert up there with a lot of losses in his first 5 seasons. Onsides, Offsides, Herbert will eventually reach the AFC Championship game as a member of the Chargers.
And it's also time to answer Ask the Pros question. We'll do a double whammy here since it's a Chargers one as well, and it's brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Cigar-smoking dude, my man on Twitter, says, should the Chargers bench Justin Herbert for the rest of the season? It's a lost cause anyway. You can submit a question by tweeting at CBS Sports Radio or at Zach Gelb using the hashtag #AskThePros. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. If I was running the Chargers, and assuming Herbert is out for Thursday, which is the indication, I would shut him down for the rest of the season. But we know the Chargers won't do that because there are jobs that are on the line. Now, you asked me, will Herbert eventually reach the AFC Championship game with the Chargers? I don't know who their coach is going to be next year, so it's tough for me to answer that and say yes. The Chargers are always that team. They have a lot of talent, and they never meet the expectations. Phillip Rivers made the AFC Championship game once, and that's when he was playing on a torn ACL up against the Patriots. I was at that game back in the 2007 regular season, which was January of 2008 in the postseason. But until I see them consistently get it right with the Chargers, I'm not saying they're going to reach the AFC Championship game, so I will go offside.
Offside!
And finally.
And last one, the Saints dominated the Panthers 28-6 yesterday, but it didn't come without incident as quarterback Derek Carr had a shouting match with offensive lineman Eric McCoy filing a bad play. And Carr also revealed following the game that he's fractured 3 ribs this season, including one last week against the Lions. And that, of course, is on top of the multiple concussions that he's had this season. So onsides, offsides, the Saints should go with Jameis Winston as their quarterback for the rest of the season.
Did David Carr write this question, who last week was advocating for Marcus Mariota? Or as the commissioner called him, Marcus Mariotto when he got drafted? When Mariota, right now is the backup for the Eagles. You had Carr advocating for him to replace Jalen Hurts. And then David Carr still thinks he's right. He asked Philly last night on Twitter, let's have this conversation now, Eagles fans. So you know what? Yeah, the Saints should go with Jameis Winston as their quarterback going forward. Because if David Carr could say erroneous things and get paid for it, I could say erroneous things and get paid for it as well. All righty, that's Onside Offside here on CBS Sports Radio. We can fade down the music. We got 2 games coming up tonight, Tennessee at Miami, and you have Green Bay at the New York Football Giants. Pat Boyle, I heard you have a big play on the Pat Boyle pick here on the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports.
I got a couple for you, Zach. Which one would you like?
We only got a minute, so give me the pick that you like the best.
I like both dogs, honestly. Mike Vrabel is good for one of these every single year. Mm-hmm. He should have beaten the Kansas City Chiefs last year on Sunday Night Football as a 14-point dog. He finds himself as a 14-point dog again. Not many coaches in the NFL are better than mucking up a game, slowing it down. Derrick Henry is going to see a lot of touches tonight. I think the Titans have this as a one-score game in the final 5 minutes, and I'm taking Derrick Henry anytime touchdown because anybody on the Dolphins, the odds are ridiculous. So Derrick Henry's plus odds anytime touchdown.
155.
And I like the G-Men plus 5.5.
Oh, you're such a homer.
No, I'm not. Jordan
You
Love.
never pick against the Giants. They stink.
Jordan Love has been on this magic carpet ride. Christian Watson out. Aaron Jones again out. He's not going to have as much success in the passing game. G-Men have been playing great on defense. They'll keep it close. Give me Big Blue.
Here is my play tonight. Plus 626, 2-leg parlay. Derrick Henry, anytime touchdown, was in on it. Romeo Doubs, anytime touchdown, plus 626. That's the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for listening and tweeting, calling the show. We'll talk to you tomorrow on a Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. We out. Bye-bye. Peace.